Oh, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you happen to be and whatever you happen to be doing. I'm Legal Vices. Welcome to another day of doing this. I had planned on getting back to the Alec Baldwin interviews today, but due to the arraignment of the ever lovely TAYLOR SCHABUSINESS, we're going to bump that back a day. We've got to take care of that. Wow, my ear is killing me. This earpiece is like bothering the shit out of me. I mean, actually, like painful. Hang on just a second. There we go. All right. What are we doing here right now? Let's see. We have 40 people here. We are today at 22,053 subscribers, and we've got 38 likes so far. That's pretty darn awesome. That's where we're starting out today. Let's see where we end up. As always, I hope you will take the time to reach down there, hit that like button, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel and leave comments and hit the notification button. All of that helps put us in the algorithm that YouTube looks for and loves when they consider which channels to promote and which channels to recommend. So do that. It helps me, and then I get to do this more often, and we all have a good time. All right. It is 11:04 p.m. here in Korea. Again, it's the middle of the rainy season here. It is hot AF. At some point very soon, I'll be turning the fan on, so any noise you hear is the fan. John D, what's your business? It's none of your business, and it's certainly not your business. We got UK here. Welcome to UK. Dustin, oh no, not this woman. Oh yes, this woman. Pleads not guilty. Biggest joke. Well, we're gonna get to that. John D, this case sounds fucked up. Yes, it is fucked up. And again, we'll recap. And doing a recap of this thing is so hard. Let's see. JC, good afternoon, everyone. This trial should be interesting. Looking forward to Legal Vices streaming it. For some reason, I don't think it's going to be streamed live, but I assume it will be streamed with a delay system because that's what Law and Cuck or Law and Crime have been doing. They've been like delaying it a few hours and then uploading it after their whatever their live programming is. But this is they may do this one live. Either way, we'll do every minute that we can find on video, and if nothing ends up on video, then we'll be just recapping whatever news we can gather about it. Good afternoon from Czechia. Wow, great. That's welcome in West Yorkshire. We have John D is in West Yorkshire. At least I assume that's what you meant to type. Oh, there we go. We've got a lot of comments pouring in here. I was going to catch up on a few, but a lot of them have poured in. Orange is the way. Woohoo, Jeff. Woohoo. Orange is the way. Looking at you. Thanks for being here. Danielle, morning. Always great to see you here. And all of my mods that are present and keep me sane, keep my show on track, and keep all of you nut jobs in your place. Welcome to them. Great day for the mods. I know a lot of them are having coincidentally at the same time some health issues. I hope they all get better. For those of you that are here, treat the mods well. Mods treat the people well, and let us all be adults and have fun and let the chat be its usual nonsensical self. All right. With that out of the way, wow, let's get into the TAYLOR SCHABUSINESS case. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this case. I don't know how many of you are not familiar with the case. So we'll do a little bit of a background. And again, just for the record's sake, last time I talked about the SCHABUSINESS case, we went through the complaint, and the stream was demonetized before it started, before it finished anyway. I mean, so yep, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and anything you feel like donating today through super chat, super stickers, and everything would be appreciated and would be graciously accepted, although not required by any stretch. Just throwing words out there into the universe that we definitely will be demonetized for this video because it is as who was it that was saying it? I believe it was John D. Yes, as John D was saying, this is a fucked up case. Good morning, Ohio. Where there's others want to check in around the universe. Please feel free to let me know where you're at. Minnesota in the house. Debbie, haha, Joe Biden. I'm not sure what. Oh, okay. I was like, okay, that was random, but then I see there Joe Biden is here. Welcome, Prez. Nice to see you here. All righty. There we go. New York and Texas, Indiana, Alabama, all you early morning risers. Well, I guess it's not too early morning on the West Coast. Texas, getting a little earlier. All righty. South Africa. I'm not sure where we start with this again because this is such a wild case. Northern Idaho, very wet Northern Idaho. Vicky T. Nice to see you here, Vicky. Always a pleasure. Wow. Well, first of all, I've got my official Johnny Depp Mega Pint Legal Vices Pimp Cup. We have a double, what is this? What did I make? Oh, yeah, double old fashioned with some extra bitters you can see there in the bottom. That is delish. Okay. Oh, Bulgaria and Eastern Europe. I definitely want to go to Bulgaria in the very near future. I want to tour Eastern European castles, like in Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, places like that. That's one of my bucket list things. Okay. Well, let's talk about TAYLOR SCHABUSINESS. And for those of you that guessed correctly, that is not her given name. Her previous name was Coronado. She changed it to SCHABUSINESS, and that was the best name change ever. Absolutely ever. Nobody would probably be talking about this case if she was just Taylor Coronado, but everybody wants to get up in SCHABUSINESS. That didn't sound right. Yeah, that didn't sound right either. Harvey Diggers 420 says, I like Harvey Wallbangers. That is a fantastic cocktail as well. Good old classic. Well, again, Digger 420, too early for booze there, but hey. Oh, but you're gonna spark one up, okay? Well, it's 11:10 p.m. here now. KT, greetings from the south of weirdo Wisconsin. Oh, south of Wisconsin. Okay, you're not in Wisconsin. Yeah, Wisconsin is where this happens, and the arraignment is fairly short. So we're going to talk a little bit about the case. We'll give a little bit of a background. We'll do the relatively short arraignment, and then we'll stick. I thought we would wrap up the evening by talking about fellow Wisconsinite. Are you Wisconsinians or Wisconsinites, or I assume you call yourself Wisconsinites or cheeseheads or something like that. But we'll be talking about fellow Wisconsin resident Jeffrey Dahmer, who also seems to enjoy murdering people and dismembering their corpses. So if you have any trigger points about SA or dismemberment or decapitation or cannibalism, tonight's stream is not the stream for you. We're going to be hitting all of those topics. I'm going to try to keep the details as ungraphic as possible, but it's really kind of hard to discuss this case without being a slight bit graphic, because it's a pretty horrific case. And again, as John D says, pretty fucked up. So TAYLOR SCHABUSINESS has a history of committing crimes. She has a history of committing crimes. Identity theft, I believe, was one of them, and a couple of charges of assaulting or threatening a judge, corrections officer, or officer of the court. I think that's how the charges were worded in those cases. She's had a few financial crimes and misdemeanors. So she has a checkered past, but she also apparently had a drug thing, and she was into some pretty freaky sex with her boyfriend, and that's how all of this starts. Her and her boyfriend were at another friend's house, and they were shooting up or smoking meth. I don't know how the hell they were ingesting it. I believe they were smoking meth. Then they smoked some marijuana, and then they later injected some trazepam. So you have these amazing amphetamines coursing through your body. And as I recall, trazepam is a massive depressant. So you have warring narcotics in your system. Uh, so with this little love cocktail they've got going on, they go back to her boyfriend's house in the afternoon. Mom hears them downstairs. God knows what she was hearing. So what happens while they're down there in the basement alone, just the two of them? They decide it's time to play sexy time. So they bring out the chains. They bring out the chains that they've apparently both used on each other previously. I guess boyfriend drew the short end of the stick, and he was the sub the first time around. So she wraps the chain around his neck. She described it as being dog collar like. Now, everything we're talking about here, like 80% of it comes from her own statements to the police. She was the epitome of self-snitching. She broke the cardinal rule to shut the fuck up and never talk to the police without a lawyer present. She violated those rules. She said some pretty incriminating things like, yeah, have you ever wanted to love someone so have you ever loved someone so much you wanted to kill it? Oh darn, why did I forget the head? Some other statements she made were, I just wanted to see what would happen, and I liked it, and telling the police good luck finding all of his internal organs. Uh, so what had happened was she face downed him on the bed, got on his back, and apparently was pulling on the dog collar like chain, choking him. She blacked out, she says, for a while choking him, and when she unblacked out, she was still choking him. And blood started coming out of his mouth. And as she told the police, she said, well, I'd already gone that far, so I just thought I would continue, and I wanted to see what would happen. So she continues choking him until he dies. She said it took 3 to 5 minutes for him to die, and he just wouldn't die. So after he dies, she decides, well, I guess it's time to hide the evidence. So she goes upstairs and gets a knife. I don't know how many times she went up to get different types of knives, but I believe she had a total of seven knives by the time it was all said and done. Aposematic Ayu says she was on meth, right? Yes, she was on meth, marijuana, and trazepam at the same time. So after trying the various knives, she decided that the serrated bread knife was the best tool for the job, and proceeds to dismember him. At some point, she decides she's going to hide a foot and leg in her roommate's van. I'm sure her roommate appreciated that. She apparently hid bits and pieces of his internal organs around the house because, as I mentioned a minute ago, she told the police good luck trying to find all of his organs. Well, the one organ they did find was his male organ. His schlong, if you will, was severed and placed in a bucket with his head. Yeah, she had a big plastic bucket she was using to catch the blood, and she would flush the blood through the shower or whatever, wherever in the bathroom she did it. And then, as she tells the police, she just got lazy and left the head in a bucket with the male member at the bottom of the stairs. But that's not where it ended. Before she left the head and the male organ in the bucket, she managed to tell the police that she Well, shit. I'm already probably demonetized at this point on this particular video, so we'll just go ahead and say it. She performed fellatio on his severed member. Yes, she gave the severed organ a BJ. She pleasured herself with the severed organ. She also brought a toy. She brought a dildo of sorts, I guess. Again, why not just come out and say it? I've already given up any monetization from this. So she took the dildo and put it in his mouth and up his rectum, inserted in his rectum, up his ass. And she said that she continued to play with his corpse and do things with his corpse and to his corpse for 2 to 3 hours after he was deceased. Yeah. She was doing things to him and with him for 2 to 3 hours post-mortem after death as a corpse. Mochorizon, thank you so much. I'll monetize you. Thank you so much. That is deeply appreciated. Now the stream is not a total and complete loss. And again, last time we did anything business wise, I lost an absolute shit ton of subscribers. Those of you that came for little sweet flowers, little unicorns, little pink ponies with ribbons in their hair, this ain't that place today. If you don't like today's topic, don't unsubscribe. Just give yourself a day off and come back tomorrow when we're going to be talking about Alec Baldwin and him shooting people and other safe stuff like that. Today is fairly graphic, I understand, but hey, it's a case. It's an actual real live case that's ongoing, and we won't be talking about this for another couple of months. So with that caveat, again, I would appreciate if you can somehow bring yourself to hit the like button despite the topic of the day. You can like me, not the topic. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I would appreciate it. I would probably question your sanity if you subscribed, but that would make you my kind of person today. And please don't unsubscribe just because of one day's topics. So after she decides she's had enough playtime with little Johnny Corpso, that's when she decides to put the head in the bucket along with the male member, cover it with a beach blanket, and leave the house. And this was about 2:30 in the morning. Mom is alone upstairs. She hears the storm door slam at about 2:30 in the morning. She thought that was Schabusiness leaving, but she wanted to go downstairs and check to see if her son left with Schabusiness. She went downstairs, didn't see her son for obvious reasons. But then as she turned to go up the stairs, she saw a bucket that was not normally where the bucket should be. So she takes off the cover to the bucket. She takes off the blanket that was covering the bucket, and that's where Mom is faced with the sight of her son's severed head and member in a bucket at the bottom of her stairs. She calls the police. The police really don't have a difficult time deciding who the most likely, who the main suspect was. Justin Wright says, PSA to everyone, we Wisconsinites are crazy. 70% of U.S. serial killers are from the beer and cheese state. We also have a lot of crazy veterans. Enjoy. Was Ted Kaczynski, was he from Wisconsin, or was he just in Montana? I know we had Jeffrey Dahmer, which we're going to get to in a bit. We had Chandler Halderson just a couple of months ago in much of the similar story. But yeah, there's something wrong with Wisconsin, I'm afraid. But yeah, so the police come, they say, wonder who did this. Mom certainly didn't do it. The son didn't do this to himself. It must have been his girlfriend, Schabusiness. So they go over to Schabusiness's house. And as they approach, she comes out of the house. Her hoodie is covered with blood on the front. She even has blood on the back, and her hands are still smeared with blood. They say, "Do you know why we're here?" And she responds, "Probably about the arrest warrant against me." Then she goes to the police station and proceeds to tell them everything that I just related to you, including the gorier details. Yeah, so that's how she ended up being charged. uh, it's not an easy way to sugarcoat that one. Now, now we're working our way to trial, and that's where we find ourselves now. There's a couple of other legal issues that we don't need to waste time reviewing because they've taken care of themselves already. But at her first hearing, the public defender who is representing her said, "Well, I don't think I think she needs a psych evaluation. I think she needs a mental evaluation to see if she is competent to stand trial, because she's not responding to questions. She doesn't appear to be able to actively assist with her defense." And those words in some form are the general standard that most jurisdictions will use when determining if someone is competent to stand trial. Are they capable of actively assisting in their defense? And that's a pretty low bar, which generally, again speaking, depending on where you are, is basically around they know what a lawyer is. They can answer some basic questions about the case. But the judge agreed that she appeared to be having problems because on the court cam, they where she was in the jail cell for this particular meeting, she was just wandering around, staring off into space, not being particularly with it. So the judge granted the request to conduct a psych evaluation, appointed an expert evaluator, a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I don't know who was appointed, but someone to give her a psych evaluation was appointed, and they came back to the next hearing. And surprise, surprise, the person found that Taylor Schabusiness was in fact competent to stand trial. Well, I guess the defense didn't like that too much, so the public defender made another motion, wanting a second opinion, wanted the court to appoint another person to give her a psych evaluation, maybe in the hopes that the second opinion would be in their favor, which of course I'm sure they would accept. Well, the judge said, "I did what you asked. You asked me to appoint someone to give her an evaluation. I gave her an evaluation, and it just seems like you didn't like the answer, so you want me to do it again. Are you going to keep asking me to do this until you get the answer you want?" And the public defender basically said, "Well, we would just like one more opinion." The court said, "I'm not going to waste the public's money to do this. If you want to appoint someone to conduct the evaluation at your own dime, go ahead. Your own cost, you go right ahead and do it." And they said, "Okay, we will." Now, there's a lot of hired guns out there. There's a lot of hired guns that you can basically pay money to give you any type of expert opinion that you want. But even the person that Eve Barlow's rotten crotch said, "This is a challenging fap. Can we go back to boats?" You just got to put your mind to it. That's all. You just got to concentrate. Uh, it's a challenging fap. All right, back on stream. We got to get back on target here. So the second evaluation, the one that the defense paid for themselves, even that person came back and said she is competent to stand trial. So at that point, the judge said, "All right, we've had two opinions, one appointed by your own damn self that have said she's competent to stand trial. So we're going to fix a date for an arraignment and proceed." And the arraignment is where you say, I plead guilty or not guilty. And that's where we are today. The arraignment was yesterday. It was a lovely little birthday present for me. And that's where we're going with Taylor Schabusiness today, the arraignment. Now, what does this arraignment mean? You're going to see a very boring about 8 minutes of courtroom non-drama, but that is literally the only purpose for this hearing, is to say guilty or not guilty is my plea. And if she pleads guilty, that's it. It's over. No trial. She goes to jail for the rest of her life. If she pleads not guilty, then the judge will set court dates, preliminary hearing dates, status update dates, and the first hearing date. And that's where we are at this point. So if we'll give a couple of questions. If anybody has any questions about this, feel free to put it here in the chat. And again, if you really want to be sure that I see your question and see your chat, then please, super chats are the best way to go. And I owe one of my moderators. Apparently, I missed was one of my mods. I missed someone's chat yesterday, so I'll have to at some point here go back and find the one that I missed. But yeah, I hate missing them, but I generally get all of them. Donna Hannaford, Georgina Archer, okay, we've got our mods here for sure. That's the first sign of life that I've noticed from our mods. Great. Keep it up. Well, I guess while we're doing this, let's see, any checking here for questions? No real questions. Nice hat. Thank you very much. Georgina Archer, yes, the entire evening will be a trigger warning because, as I said, after we finish this, we're just going to go straight into Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer, for you youngsters that may not know him other than a legend, yeah, we'll get into his serial killing, dismembering, and eating ways. Let me bring up my super chats from yesterday so I can do this before I forget. Righty, because I want to keep my promises that I do not miss chats. The super chats. Let's see, where are we here? Bring that up. And bring up this list right here. And I will quickly scan through this as quickly as possible and find the alleged missing one. Where are we? Oh, I did. It was from Real Desserts. Thank you so much, Real Desserts, for your donation and your super chat that I did not read. Happy birthday, handsome. Hey, that's me. Here's a virtual cake and a cake icon. I forgot to read that yesterday. It skipped past me, probably because Execution's video his was next, and it was all about me having a drink. So I probably focused on that one. All right, with that out of the way, let's hit up this one from MD. Thank you so much. Hey there, puppers. The victim's mom was upstairs during the cannibal necrophiliac sex party. Did I miss something? No, you did not miss something. She was out some of the day, but from my understanding of the wording of the complaint, she was home most of the time. Yeah. But again, it was late at night. She may have been sleeping. Joe Biden says she was practicing blood sex magic. I think she was just practicing drugs. Ooh. Craftolitical asks, how long does a high from that cocktail of drugs last? Can it be a drug-induced break after 4+ hours? and the time between getting high, going home, and setting up for sex, of necrophilia or mutilation. Well, the charges against her are one, basically first-degree murder. I think it's called first-degree intentional homicide in Wisconsin, mutilation of a corpse, and sexual assault. But it seems that before death, it was consensual. It seems the SA charges are for what occurred after death. But I think she has a chance of winning that one, because you cannot SA a corpse, something that is dead, because the assault usually includes a fear of violence, or it's I don't know exactly what the SA statute is in Wisconsin, but ordinarily, if the person is dead, it's not an SA because they're dead. And in as I was talking about with Uncivil Law Kurt last night, if she thought he was still alive, even though he was dead, if he was dead, it can't be SA. But if she thought he was still alive, then it would be attempted SA. Yes, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter win or lose on that one. The other, I mean, I think that has like a 12.5-year prison sentence, I think. But mutilation of a corpse, I believe, has somewhere around 6. I can't remember the numbers. I'm just kind of going off my feeling of what I think I might remember. But the important one is the intentional homicide, the first-degree murder, if you will. That charge carries a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. If she gets convicted on that, she goes away for the rest of her life. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Never, ever, ever see the light of day again. That's because Wisconsin does not have the death penalty. If you followed the Chandler Halderson case, where he shot his parents in the back, chopped their bodies up, and spread them around the neighborhood, same outcome for him: life in prison without parole. So why are we here? Why on earth would she plead not guilty? Well, I mean, there is the astronomically small possibility that she didn't do that, although she told the police that there was absolutely no one in the basement other than the two of them at that time. Although she told the police that, yes, she continued because she wanted choking him out because she wanted to see what would happen. Yes, because she told the police that she loved him so much she wanted to watch him die, basically. And she said, "Oh, I just got lazy, and damn, I forgot to hide the head. And good luck finding his body." I mean, despite all of this, there is a statistically existent chance that maybe she didn't do it. But if she did it, which looks incredibly likely, she has nothing to lose. Nothing to lose by pleading not guilty and going to trial. If she pleads guilty, that fast, it's over, it's done. She goes to jail for the rest of her life. If she pleads not guilty, she has a Hail Mary's chance of the prosecution doing something crazy, important witnesses, all of the police officers dying, there being some other something or other goes wrong that gets the case thrown out. There is a teeny tiny little possibility that something goes so horrifically wrong for the prosecution that she might get off. So she literally has nothing to lose. She has a public defender, not going to cost her a dime. She has nothing to lose by pleading not guilty. And that's where we are. Eve Barlow's Rotten Crotch. Where did your star go? Here we go. Q. How do you get 100 dead babies into a bucket? A blender. Q. How do you get them out again? A, Dorito. Oh, I haven't heard the Doritos part of that. That's good. Doritos. That was like the how do you load 100 dead babies onto the back of a truck with a pitchfork? Anyway, enough of the dead baby jokes. So yeah, thanks for that super chat, I think. So now we're going to start the video. She's going to go into court. She's not looking as hot as she looked in the thumbnail. Not that that was overly hot, but it was still smashable. She's looking a little worse for wear, having been in jail since I believe the end of February, March, April, May, June. It was about 4 months. All righty. Well, Carrie girl, she says she needs to be in a mental institution. Does she? I mean, you can always argue that nobody sane does this thing. But it's interesting because in the Jeffrey Dahmer case that we're going to get into after this, Jeffrey Dahmer pled guilty but insane. He didn't plead not guilty by reason of insanity. Maybe that particular plea doesn't exist in Wisconsin. I don't know if it does or not, but he pled guilty but insane, which means he admits to doing it, but he was insane and should not be held accountable for it. She didn't make that. She didn't make that claim. She didn't say that, she didn't plead not guilty by reason of insanity, or, she never said I didn't do it. But that is a potential defense. They could come back and say, even though she did it, even though we're going to give you that one, she was insane at the time. But she has a problem. She has a problem in that the insanity defense means that they were of such a diminished mental capacity that they could not differentiate right from wrong at the time. They did not know mentally what they were doing was wrong. There was such a compulsion over them through whatever their mental condition was, that they did not know it was wrong to do it. And I don't think that is a viable defense for her, because she knew it was wrong in that she tried to hide the knives, tried to hide the body, didn't do a very good job, but she tried to do it. And the fact that she tried to hide the body parts indicates that she knew what she had done was wrong and was trying to hide it. So whether she is just an evil, sick fuck, or whether she is actually mentally ill, or whether it was the result of some drug-induced thing, I don't know if I think she could benefit by a trip to the mental institution, maybe, but it's not really going to matter. She's 99.9% sure. I'm sure she's going away to jail for the rest of her life. And who knows how long she'll last there. Jeffrey Dahmer lasted about a year after his conviction. A Spatha says, "Oh, I bet the sex was killer." Yeah. So let's enter the courtroom. Here we are entering the courtroom. And again, while I'm bringing up the video, please feel free to like the video. How are we doing on likes? We've got 242 likes so far. That's a pretty good start. Reach over there and slap that like button. Just smash the hell out of it. And I'm grateful we've only lost one subscriber so far. But if you haven't subscribed, again, I would be deeply honored and appreciated if you would subscribe. This is not something we talk about every day, and it's going to be a while before we talk about this particular case again. So don't worry. We're sick and perverted, but we're not this sick and this perverted all the time on this channel. All right, that having been said, what have I just done? Oh, it seems I have just deleted the screen that I brought up. So, dun, 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 dun. Where are we? Taylor Schabusines. This is the lovely Taylor Schabusines, looking slightly worse for wear as she goes into court yesterday. All right. Again, this is not going to be the most exciting thing you've seen. There's not going to be much reason to stop it. We can talk over most of it. So I'll be checking out any super chats you happen to send now between now and the next 8 minutes as they happen. I'll hit any other questions that I might notice and might feel compelled to respond to. But in the meantime, let's see how the lovely, charismatic, young Taylor Schabusines with her prison braids is getting on. She's a tiny little thing. I think she said she was like, wow, that's an aggressive keyboard you got going there, camera guy.
Yes.
I think it said she was like 5'2", something like that, and weighed like 120 pounds or something. A lovely shot of the table. That's her public defender there. This is the prosecutor and prosecutor young assistant. I think young assistant. Here come the judge. That's just some aggressive typing. Come on, Judge, where are you? I want to do that too. I can't do it that loud. All right, come on. I'm still trying to figure out if this is male or female over here. It's kind of like Pat, a him or a her, a ma'am or a sir. That's Pat. All right. Okay, we got the bots in the channel. God dang it. All right. Let's while we're waiting for the judge to come in, I am going to change a couple of settings here. I'm changing it to, unfortunately, a 5-minute delay for subscribers to comment. Looks like we have a bot getting around the 1-minute requirement.
Taylor Schabusines, 20 CF 998 to 20 CF 1393, 22 CF 363. State appears by Deputy District Attorney Saunders. The defendant is here in person and with her attorney, Mr. Jolly. We're on the court's calendar, excuse me, for an arraignment this morning. Mr. Jolly, have you and your client received a copy of the information?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you asking that the information be read out formally in open court?
No, Your Honor, we waive the reading of the information. I've gone over it with my client. It does appear to mirror what is in the complaint. We enter not guilty pleas on all counts.
Well, there we go. That's essentially the end of the arraignment right there. In case you missed it, the judge asked, "Do you want me to read the information?" And that's basically the list of charges against them. And yeah, he doesn't want He doesn't want that on the record anymore. Oh, my Beavers unit, she is here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you're feeling better. Yeah, okay. Well, as long as we're looking at my Beavers unit. Yeah, public defenders, when I say they don't cost a dime, I mean they don't cost lawyers fees. I mean they'll be a minimum thing that the judge will order, like a minimum amount to be paid. I mean, they're not absolutely 100% free. The one time back in my youth when I needed a public defender, I accidentally got one of the best lawyers in the state of Utah who was looking to do some pro bono hours, and I think the judge asked me to pay like $120 or something like that. Legal Vices, I had messaged you on twat. Well, I twatted back at you. So there. All righty. Well, that was it. So they said, do you want us to read the information? And he said, no. We don't want you to necessarily read that out loud on camera and record it again. We read the complaint. It's basically what was in the complaint, and we plead not guilty on all charges. Thunderlove says the real question is, would you date her? No. Maybe when she was looking all dolled up the way she was, maybe do like one smash and dash. But yeah, no, that's not dating material. Anyone that's that crazy, stay away. But all right, well, let's hear this amazing hearing right here. The gist of the hearing, the main body of the hearing, was about 20 seconds long.
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you asking that the information be read out formally in open court?
No, Your Honor, we waive the reading of the information. I've gone over it with my client. It does appear to mirror what is in the complaint. We enter not guilty pleas on all counts.
Again, that's it. That's the whole thing. Jagome asks, am I missing something? Was her beauty so astounding? No, she wasn't beautiful at all. I mean, she wasn't discardable. She was passably attractive. But yeah, she's still a nutter. But if it was like a first night, one night stand thing, you wouldn't probably know she was a nutter unless she said, hey, have you ever thought about bleeding out, or do you mind if I choke you? Then that would be a warning sign. But I mean, if you just ran the way she looked in some of her pictures, the way she looked, if she was in a bar and you were having drinks and she was there and she was able to be picked up, yeah, it would be a pickupable, like, is that a word? A pickupable person. But you would probably see through the crazy in a hurry. But apparently that's what the former boyfriend liked. That was their thing. They were presumably into some pretty heavy BDSM, but hey, fly your freak flag. Just don't let it cost you your life. Well, and now the last half of the hearing is setting court dates. So if you're keeping track,
pleas will be entered on behalf of the defendant. Then the next, actually, the other files that are on are simply those probationary counts. There's a revocation on the books waiting to be heard. I'm assuming the parties just simply want those to be brought along with this case as opposed to address those now. Is that correct, Mr. Jolly?
That's correct, Your Honor.
State have any objection?
No, that's fine.
Very good. Those will just simply come along until such time as we're ready to address those. The next thing we need to deal with is scheduling. What I'd like to do is get the matter at least on the calendar for a trial at this point.
We're going to schedule the trial date
to complete their discovery and give them time to do that.
And that's a very dynamic tie for a judge. Nice tie.
Getting a trial scheduled at this point from the state?
No, that's fine.
Any objection from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. I don't know precisely the status of all of the discovery issues. I do know that I've got some orders across my desk to sign regarding
that is a woman.
Issues in this case, but I'm looking at mid-October. Any problem with that time frame?
Your Honor, at this point, we haven't received any of the discovery yet. I mean,
And what he means by we haven't received any of the discovery is they haven't received the prosecutor's evidence yet. Both parties, both sides have an obligation to exchange all evidence they have. There's a few protected categories, attorney-client privileged documents you don't have to turn over, work product like your own internal reports, things like that you don't have to turn over. But any pieces of evidence, whether it is good for you or extremely bad for you, the parties have a duty to exchange the information and provide all evidence. So yeah, he's just saying that we haven't got any of the prosecutor's evidence yet, and I'm sure the prosecutor just says we'll get it to you.
once I start reviewing it, I'll have a better picture where we are.
Mr. Saunders, any idea when the discovery? Because maybe in the sense that I get the matter on for trial doesn't quite add up.
It's certainly available. I think perhaps maybe somebody from Attorney Jolly's office picked it up on Friday, but maybe our notes reflect it was picked up on July 1st. So it's done and prepared.
Yeah. So he's saying we already sent it. Somebody from their office picked it up Friday, so it probably hasn't hit his desk yet.
And perhaps it's been picked up, at least the state thinks it's been picked up. With the holiday, I suppose there's room for a little bit of confusion on that. How about if we, I'm going to stick with the idea then of scheduling the matter for trial. Obviously, if you take a look at discovery, these dates are going to be problematic. You have to let the court know. But how about a trial starting on October 24? Mr. Jolly, does that work?
That works.
That should work for the state at this point.
Okay. And
So October 24th is the day the trial will start. And again, I'm thinking this is not going to be a particularly long trial. It's I don't think it's going to be very long. I really, really don't. The Halderson trial lasted a week, basically. Or was it 2 weeks? Not counting the time that it was shut down because he got COVID. But it seems to be a lot more clear in this case. John D says, legal advice is, could you defend her? Yes, I could easily defend her. Regardless of being a horrific monster, she deserves an honest representation. Now, how you would represent her depends on several factors. I mean, if I would, knowing what I know now, well, what you do, if you know your client is guilty of something, if you know they are guilty of something, you cannot get up in court and as a sworn officer of the court say that they didn't do it. So if I thought she did it, if I knew she did it, I couldn't get up there and say, no, she didn't do this. It was somebody else. That's why if you have a very strong suspicion that your client may be guilty, you do not ask them, did you do it? Because if they say, yes, I did it, you're screwed. If they don't say they did it, you can still entertain a reasonable doubt in your mind, or it doesn't even have to be reasonable. It can be a doubt in your mind and give them an aggressive, they didn't do it defense. But in something like this, where she's basically admitted to the police she did it, the defense would be probably, if I were to do it, would be something along the lines of, and again, it's not to try to get her off of the charges or something like that. When someone is going to lock anyone up for the rest of their natural life, the state should be pushed to meet their burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt. Because if you don't make them do it in this case, then why would you make them do it in the next case, the next case, or the next case? So I would make a defense. I don't know what the defense would be right now, but it would be probably, something just questioning the police procedure. Did they do this correctly? Did you do this correctly? Then what did you do? What did you do after that? Trying to make sure the police have crossed all of their T's and dotted all of their I's. And I don't know if maybe you could go for a diminished capacity or some sort of insanity defense, but I don't think that would be viable. So I don't know. It's a tough call. I have to see how things go. And Robin Lane asks, how could she possibly plead not guilty for the love of all things holy? We discussed this a little bit earlier in case you joined us as we went along. If she pleads guilty, she goes to jail right now for the rest of her life. No possibility of parole. No questions, done deal, out of here. But if she pleads not guilty, there is still this infinitesimally small possibility that she may not be convicted. So she has nothing to lose by making the state prove their case. So that's why she would do it. That's the only thing I got. But so the trial date is October 24th. Going to set a couple more dates here.
I know we need to make sure that these dates work with victims. Have you checked there as well?
I did. I believe those dates work for the crime victims as well.
Okay. So October 24, that's a Monday. That'll be her trial date. I intend on scheduling 2 other dates. First date being a final pretrial, which is going to be a few days before this trial, but also a status date, just to confirm that we're still on track. Because if we're not on track, I don't want to hear about it 2 days in advance. So how about final pretrial on this case on October 19th? Mr. Jolly, does that work?
That works.
Looking at 1 o'clock.
That'll work.
Okay.
What was the date on that again?
That'll work.
Does that work?
Yep.
On this case, on October 19th.
Okay, October 19th will be the pre-trial hearing.
That works.
Looking at 1 o'clock.
That'll work.
Okay.
And that works for the state and the crime victims as well.
Okay. So that'll be the final pretrial and then a status date. September 1st, 1 o'clock.
Okay, so September
That works.
1st, they're going to do a status hearing, which is basically the
That works for the
prosecutor,
state and crime victim as well.
the prosecutor and the defense will get together,
Hopefully on that day
and the
we'll get
judge,
a good sense about
the judge will just
Anything
ask if they're
anything
all.
else for the calendar or for the
All right, volume
court
down.
today.
The judge will ask if they're still on track for trial on the
You're on.
24th.
Right, President Bond
Then the
continues
19th,
in
they'll
this
have the
matter.
preliminary hearing, the first pretrial hearing, and then they'll have the trial on October 24th. And that's it. She's not going to be in court again until at least September 24th, or September, whatever the hell the date for the status hearing was. And she may not even be at the status hearing, but she probably will be. So we're not going to be talking about this at least until September. That's a very happy court reporter. So, all right, that is the end of the Taylor Schabusiness portion of our evening. There was a few comments that were brought here. Legal advice: will you be joining Nick in watching the trial? Nick, I told Nick about this case last Friday. Friday America time, Saturday my time. And I sent him a copy of the complaint. What I would like to have happen is for him to join me for the hearing. I would, if he decides to stream it, I would be an idiot not to join his stream, because I pick up about 1,000 subscribers every time I go on his stream. So I would be an idiot not to go on his stream. But even if I do go on his stream, I will do a separate, delayed commentary on the hearing. because I want to do my own comments and my own space and my own time. But yeah, if he streamed it and invited me, I would be a fool not to do it. Just from a pure subscriber point of view. Oh damn, Don, your last name again, Charchian, I believe it was. Don Charchian. We know if she has a previous record? Yes, she does. She has a couple of convictions for assault or threatening a judge, law enforcement officer, or officer of the court. Is I believe exactly what the charges are. I think that's kind of what it's called. And she has a few financial crimes under her belt and a driving with a suspended license. So yeah, she does have it, and those are aggravating factors in punishment. But how much more can you aggravate life in prison without the possibility of parole? Turtle Dove, Jeff, would you hit this with makeup? I would hit the person that was in her earlier pictures with makeup at least once. I mean, you got to be honest. No sense lying about it. Wouldn't if it found out later that she was a murderess, did things, I would consider myself very lucky. But yes, she chopped his head off and lots of other body parts, including his member, and distributed them around the house, her roommate's van, and told the police good luck finding all of his organs. Yeah, not a pretty sight. But now if those of you that are old enough to remember Jeffrey Dahmer went to trial in, I believe it was 1992, for killing 17 people, I believe it was. There was a lot of necrophilia involved there, and a healthy dose of cannibalism. So yeah, it's the same neck of the woods there in Wisconsin. Something's wrong with the water in Wisconsin. Perhaps it's all of the heavy metals or the sewage or whatnot. But Jeffrey Dahmer was a huge deal back in the day. One of the first he may have been the first fully televised trial, because it was a few years before O.J. Simpson. I know some of Ted Bundy's trial was broadcast, but it was very, very rare to have a trial broadcast from beginning to end back in the early 90s. Charchian, that's right. Damn it. All right. Sorry. I will remember it. Yeah. So what I wanted to do now is shift gears to Jeffrey Dahmer, because it's in the same vein: murder, dismemberment. And I don't care. I have a very strong belief that Schabusiness may have taken a taste, licked one of the knives clean or did something like that. Because if you do all the shit that she told the police she did, I mean, taking a taste would be amongst the least offensive things she did. Rodney King trial. I don't recall. I was in Korea at that time. I don't recall the Rodney King trials being broadcast. I remember the jury verdict being announced, because I was in Seoul in the Agence France press office at that time. So that would have been 92, early 92. Yeah, so around the same time. And then I remember all of Los Angeles going to hell. But yeah, I'm thinking Schabusiness took a snack. She took a taste. She had to have. Again, like I said, her taking a taste would be the least offensive thing she did that entire day. Just saying. And if the fact there are still 373 of you here, I don't know if that concerns me about all of you all or restores my faith in humanity. But if you're here and you haven't, please hit that like button. We're up to 321 likes 1 hour in. So that means we could probably get up to 600 likes if we really tried. And that'd be kind of fun to, more likes trickle in later, but I don't know if I've had a 600 like live stream during the live stream. So if you want to help me get this channel out there a little bit more, hit that like button while we're going. And gee, we're bleeding subscribers slower than before. We've only lost 3 today. I'm sorry we lost you. I know we've gained a couple. We probably lost more than that and gained a couple. I appreciate those of you that are subscribing during this stream. And again, just to get the word out, this is not the kind of stuff we talk about every day. And I wanted to do a separate thing about Jeffrey Dahmer at some point, but I figure this is just a good enough time to get in, wrap it up, and get out. So what I want to do is bring up a documentary about Jeffrey Dahmer. And just kind of discuss similarities, differences, and just kind of hear about another similar incident. And the good thing about this, there's a documentary and then there's an interview with Jeffrey Dahmer. And it's very, very instructive. It's very, very educational on the process of how he went from a young, innocent boy to a dude that would kill intercourse and then eat, in that order, 17 people. Let's see. There's Schabusiness there and Jeffrey Dahmer. That is our man, Jeffrey Dahmer. He was a decent looking guy. So we'll have to see how it goes. Let's take it away. And this, again, also, this is kind of this is also a test. This is a test to is in the run up to my O.J. Simpson opening statements, closing statements, and one particular cross examination I want to get into. It's a copyright test to see what sources will get nailed and which ones won't. So let's start the documentary here. It's 49 minutes long.
The crimes of Jeffrey Dahmer made the world cringe. 17 murders. Cannibalism. Sex with the dead.
Ew.
A man who made his Milwaukee apartment into a violent and erotic death chamber.
One thing led to another. It took more and more deviant type behaviors to satisfy my urges.
Dahmer even tried to create living sex zombies by injecting acid into their brains.
You heard that right. He tried to make zombie sex slaves by sticking acid in their brain.
Jeffrey Dahmer, it seemed, was as close to raw evil as the world had ever known.
Jeffrey thought he was the devil. Jeffrey thought he was so evil that he was equal to the devil.
Now, while we go through this and you're watching this development of a cannibal necrophiliac serial killer, remember, he did not plead not guilty by reason of insanity. He pled guilty but insane, which is, I did it. I did the things you're accusing me of, but I was insane. I had a mental issue that made it so I should not be held liable for what I did. And see if you agree with that as this goes along. So look at it from that frame of reference.
The first child of Joyce and Lionel Dahmer was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on May 21st, 1960, just before their first anniversary. His name was Jeffrey.
It was a very happy time when Jeff was first born, and for a couple of months, it was everything was.
How would you like to be this guy? Jeffrey, that's what you're known as for time and eternity. Jeff's father, Jeffrey Dahmer's father. And just as a confessional, back during this, during the Jeffrey Dahmer heyday, the imprisonment, the trial, and post-trial, from Korea, whenever I would send letters, we used to actually write letters by hand and put them in envelopes and put stamps on them and send them to people back in that era of human history. Instead of putting my real name, I would put Jeffrey Dahmer on it, just because I thought it was amusing.
Brand new and very, very enjoyable and happy. Looking forward to the future.
While Jeff's father pursued his chemistry degree, Jeff grew into a bright and loving child.
He was very exuberant. He liked to wrestle. He liked to run around and ham it up for the camera. And he liked to play with kids, liked to get together with them. And he was very outgoing.
Jeff was also an extremely curious child.
He seemed to want to play with things and feel things and get to know their texture. And he seemed to be very much
Get to know their mouth feel.
in tune with what's around him. He just wanted to know what was going on.
He had a fascination with animals as a youngster. Once,
Daytona.
4-year-old Jeff watched his father collect the bones of small animals that
Daytona again. We're not going to be mentioning Schabusiness again until at least late September. So you're safe on that respect. As I said, it's not a topic for everybody, but it is a current legal issue. So we're done talking about her, and we're not going to bring her up again in any substantial way until at least late September.
had died under the house.
I brought them out, put them in a metal pail just to collect them all in one place, and they dropped in with sort of a clanking noise. And Jeff seemed kind of interested in that noise, and he took a hold and let them drop down in too. You know, in retrospect, everything looks grim and dark and sinister. You know, like, could that be the start of something evil? Well, I have to admit, it's simply just the curiosity of a child.
Lionel finished his schooling with a PhD in chemistry. The family moved to Ohio, relocating 3 times before settling down on a nearly 2-acre wooded lot in the town of Bath, an hour's drive south of Cleveland. It was then that Lionel began to notice the previously gregarious Jeff had become shy and withdrawn.
He did seem to be awkward socially and just didn't feel comfortable.
To take his mind off the move, 7-year-old Jeff was given a dog, Frisky, whom he loved dearly.
With people that he knew or his new pet, the next door neighbor boy, he was very relaxed. But there was this shyness and feeling of inferiority that we were concerned about at that time.
What the Dahmers thought their son needed was to feel more involved, so they let Jeff choose the name of their second son. Jeff named his brother David. Lionel also encouraged his son to participate in activities that would include contact with other kids.
What we were trying to do was to involve Jeff with activities with the thought that involvement would lead to human involvement, a forced almost interaction.
And on the weekends, father and son planted gardens and raised sheep for competition in 4-H fairs. To commemorate their gardening days, young Jeff gave his father a handmade card with a poem.
There's a picture of me eating an ear of corn on the front, and Jeff says, "The squash and the pumpkins can never compare to the kind of dad who has curly hair." And it says, "This poem is from Jeff, and I love you to death."
So we have a child who is just a legitimate, normal, a little shy child. I mean, this doesn't sound a lot different than me when I was a kid. So this is what fascinates me about things like this. I mean, it's a gruesome, horrific story, but the psychology of it, is this something defective in him that was inevitable to happen? Or was this something that somehow was a learned behavior? Was it somehow this illness developed due to the nature of his surroundings and upbringing and the events that happened in his life? I mean, where does this go off the rails? The very, 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 very first case I ever worked on in my life is when I was a clerk in law school for a federal defender in Salt Lake City. The defendant was exactly the same age as me, within a few months of each other. I was working as a law clerk for a lawyer, and he was on trial for robbing 11 banks. I was going to finish law school and go on to a legal career, and he was sentenced to, if I recall correctly, 74 years in prison. I mean, we're the same age. We watched the same cartoons, undoubtedly. We did the same things with our friends. At what point do lives go like this? And this is why I love these true crime documentaries, the Netflix specials about and things like this. It gets you into the mind of someone as much as possible to see what happened, where it went wrong. That's the part that fascinates me, not the gory details, not it's just how you get someone from being a sweet little innocent baby to being a literal monster. Maybe that's weird of me to like those things, but I love the psychology of this, the mind. It's an interesting yet sometimes scary place.
When Jeff was 10, his mother was hospitalized and treated for anxiety. From there, his parents' marriage began to fail. Jeff's fascination with nature and small animals continued into his teenage years, when he became curious about what they looked like on the inside.
That's a red flag. Now, I was also very interested in biology when I was a very young teenager. I was interested in what animals looked like on the inside as well. Me, however, I went to the library and I got those books that had like a picture of a frog skeleton, and then it had like a transparent sheet with the nervous system of the frog on it. So you folded it over and you saw how the nervous system sat on the skeleton. And then there was another transparent page with tracings of the blood vessels in the frog. And you laid that over the top and you could see how the bones, the nervous system, and the blood vessels interconnected, and then the muscles, and then the skin. That's how I satisfied my curiosity about what animals looked like on the inside. Johnny Osprey knows what's up. Those overlays were the shit. Yeah, they were. Yeah. Now, I mean, I was in middle school. When did I start middle school? Jesus, I think I started high school in 83. I started it was 1981 when I started middle school. And by then my school had stopped doing live dissections of frogs. That used to be the thing. You would have to dissect a frog as part of your science class. But we'd stopped doing that just before I got there. So I never dissected an animal, but that's why we have books. So, yeah, him being curious about what animals look like on the inside is not in and of itself a problem. It is kind of a flag when you start going, I wonder what they look like on the inside. But it becomes a red flag with how he deals with it.
For specimens, he collected roadkill.
Okay. Okay, not entirely out of the realm of normalcy. It's kind of pushing the envelope to pick up roadkill. Mm, again, I would give a child the benefit of the doubt and say, let's not touch the sick, diseased, rotting roadkill. Let's go to the library and get a book.
Animals continued into his teenage years when he became curious about what they looked like on the inside. For specimens, he collected roadkill. Riding around the country roads in Bath, carrying garbage bags, Jeff searched for carcasses. Jeff brought the roadkill he found into the backyard of the house, and there in the secrecy of the woods, he dissected the animals.
I really have become convinced that that was sort of the starting point in this downward spiral of his.
I think you're right, Dad.
And it was associated with his puberty. And when you have hormones kicking into this terrible mixture, what he's doing, he's investigating insides of animals, and his sexuality was developing at the same time.
Teenage Jeff was discovering that he felt sexually attracted only to men, but the thoughts of sex with men became interlocked with fantasies of killing another man and dismemberment.
See, now, and that's an interesting thing. At the same time he's developing hormonally, he's also exploring this dissection of roadkill. So, I don't know how it is. I don't know how it is for women, but I'm sure there's not a man here in the chat who would deny that when you're a teenager, when you're a 12, 13-year-old boy, the wind blowing in the wrong direction will give you an erection. You'll get wood from bumping into a table. It doesn't take much to set a 12 or 13-year-old's hormones raging. And a lot of time fear is there. Fear, it can also be an erotic thing. Fear can give you wood, So if you're doing something, there's the thrill, the endorphins get raging, you start to get a little wood when you're doing something that's thrilling. The danger, doing something you shouldn't be doing can set off a young teen. Scared stiff. Yeah, it says read by nature. So when you're doing, he's dissecting roadkill in the back, doing something he knows he shouldn't be doing. And that can get the endorphins and other chemicals in the brain rushing and lead to, a sexual arousal. And so is that it, where he's equating sexual arousal with this need to dissect, or rather than seeing the dissection as something that's causing the, and then when he's like, okay, I'm liking dudes, which, hey, go right ahead. I'm liking dudes. Dudes make me aroused. I'm also aroused by chopping up animals. So, hey, you gotta want if how the brain misprocesses this. And this is literally something I've thought about for 30 years because this case fascinated me. I'm 53 years old as of yesterday. To this day, my father, who is now 87, has never said a word to me about sex. No sex education from him. That was, oh dear God, I don't even want my son to know that I ever have sex. That's all up to the school will teach them about it, but of course the schools can't teach about it. So would his life have been different if he had been able to open up to his parents, or if his parents had sat him down and gave him a normal sex education lesson? There's so many fascinating aspects of this. I mean, could this have been headed off, or was this just something that was programmed and hardwired into his brain and DNA that no matter what, this couldn't have been avoided? I don't know.
The fantasies excited him, but they were unspeakable.
I think it was around age 14 or 15. Started having obsessive thoughts of
Oh, Vicky T, you naughty girl.
violence intermingled with sex. And it just got worse and worse. I didn't know how to tell anyone about it, so I didn't. I just kept it all inside.
The fantasies included lying next to an unconscious man. For the first time, Jeff's fantasies crossed the line from his mind into action. He devised a plan. He would knock out a local jogger with a bat and lie next to him. On the day he opted to wait for his victim, the jogger didn't run by. He never attempted the clubbing a second time.
I think we've officially crossed a line.
As he entered high school, his sexual fantasies traumatized him. To escape, he began drinking. On the way to classes in the morning, he would fill up a cup with hard liquor at a friend's house.
And I remember sitting next to him in a first period, I believe, history class, and he had a styrofoam cup of scotch, I believe it was scotch. I remember saying, "Jeff, what is that?" And he threw his head back and he shook it and he said, "It's my medicine."
Oddly, that's
But
what I
clearly
call
he
my
was
whiskey
getting drunk
too.
At 8 o'clock in the morning.
My medicine.
At home, Jeff was watching his parents' marriage dissolve. When their bickering escalated to open fighting, he retreated to the forested backyard, slapping tree trunks with sticks.
Okay, I slap tree trunks with chicks. I slap tree trunks with chicks. No, I slap tree trunks with sticks. Wow, say that 3 times fast. I mean, that's what you do. You smack trees with baseball bats. You with swords. You make a.
I'd leave the house, go out in the woods, and sulk, brooding, wondering why they had to have such a rough relationship.
He remained aloof with few interests and no close friendships, but he still seemed to have a sense of humor. On the high school tennis team, Jeff spent most of his time goofing around rather than playing a serious game. But more often than not, the jokes were at Jeff's expense. He gained a reputation as the class clown. Acting out in a bizarre or unexpected manner became known at his school as, quote, doing a Dahmer.
All of a sudden,
Okay. If your name becomes a verb or a gerund noun, yeah, that's not a good sign. And that could be pretty traumatizing if that gets back to the child. So again, is this just a thing, where he just gets pushed too far? I don't know. John Long last name. Jason Voorhees slaps tree trunks with chicks. Okay. Anyway. All right, let's get back into it.
be walking down the hall and you'd hear someone yelling and hollering and running through the hallway, and it's Jeff Dahmer in the middle of the day, running, flapping his arms, yelling, hurricane drill, everybody hide.
At one point, Jeff collected money from classmates in exchange for a show at the mall.
And a woman is handing out samples of sunflower seeds, and Jeff is taking one and then another and being very polite, like he always was, and then just spits them out all over the place and starts yelling at the top of his lungs, I'm allergic.
But see, this is shit I would do. I was exactly that kind of kid. I would do shit like that. I mean, I'll have to talk about this on a different stream at some point. But oh hell yeah, me and my friends, we would stage fake gang fights on streets at night. We would do amazingly dumb shit that, I mean, you would go to jail for now. and you know, when do these things turn into cannibalism, and how does it turn into that? You know, it's wild. Okay, and just to get this out of the way, there seems to be a discussion going on. I bet Legal Vice's straw hat is a Rosignol brand. No, it is not. All of my cowboy hats, including this one, my 2 straw hats, and my Cuban hat, they are all made by Miller Hats in Texas. It's millerhats.com. They make amazing hats, custom size and everything. Miller Hats does most of my hats that I own. I also the one that people hate that has the dangling silver feather on it was a handmade, custom made hat from Spain. My flat caps are all Aran caps from Ireland. But yes, all of my cowboy hats are from millerhats.com in Texas. Hey, Miller Hats, if you ever happen to see this and want to sponsor the stream and or give me lots and lots of free hats, fuck yeah, I'll do it. Digger 420 says we threw sticks at each other, not the trees. Again, that's dumb shit that we used to have BB gun wars where we would literally shoot BB guns at each other. You'd have to wear a motorcycle helmet, and the rule was no headshots. But yeah, we would shoot each other with BB guns and stage fake gang fights and do dumb shit like that. But well, one person did some serious shit and went away for it. But other than that, all of us were turned out to be pretty darn normal, productive members of society. So anyway, let's see where we get deviant. Yeah.
And runs away.
During his junior year, Jeff went along on a school-sponsored trip to Washington, D.C.
And Jeff said, I have an idea. Let's go see the vice president. And we sort of all laughed and said, yes, sure, the vice president.
Jeff went to a payphone. When he returned, he announced that they would be seen in the office of Vice President Walter Mondale in 2 hours.
He had explained that we were high school students from Ohio working on our school newspaper, and we were in town for a week, and could we come and talk to someone in the vice president's office?
His slick talking worked. Dahmer had gotten his classmates inside the executive office building to meet with Mondale.
He meets with Walter Mondale.
Jeff was something of a model student.
Very polite to adults, dressed very nice, very respectful to teachers. Did his work. He could be an A student if he wanted to. Other times he would fail a class because he had no interest.
Robin Lane asks, remember Mondale? When I was in high school, I used to collect pins for like buttons. And that was the year that Walter Mondale was running for president with Geraldine Ferraro running as vice president. So he had Walter Mondale and his female vice president. And I had a badge that said, vote for Wally and the Beaver. That was one of my prized possessions back then. The Walter Mondale, Geraldine Ferraro, vote Wally and Beaver. Yeah. Anywho, moving right along.
He could be very polite with very good manners. Yes, sir. No, sir. When he spoke with teachers.
He was perfecting his ability to fool authority figures. But as time went on,
I used to have a Jackaroo hat. I did.
His performance at school.
No one really knew what was going on in his mind. He didn't open up to anybody. He didn't have any close friends. And he had really slipped away from his social life the older we got in high school.
At the school near Bath, Ohio, Jeffrey remained an alcoholic outcast. His behavior was the subject of mockery from other students.
I don't think he connected, he didn't engage with people. So if you don't engage with people, then you give and take of conversation and feelings, then you end up internalizing a lot, you fantasize a lot.
Dad seems pretty based here.
And then the next step is to think that some of those fantasies may be real.
A step Jeff was ready to make. He would kill his first victim just after high school graduation. For Jeffrey
Okay.
Dahmer, the summer of 1978 started with high school graduation. It would be downhill from there. His parents, after years of open and bitter fighting, divorced. Jeffrey's father, Lionel, moved out of the family house in Bath, Ohio, and into this nearby motel. Unbeknownst to Lionel, Jeff's mother took younger brother David and moved to Wisconsin. Jeffrey found himself home alone.
Okay, that would kind of fuck you up a little bit. Poor Jeffrey Dahmer. Dad's living in a hotel and mom just fucks off with your younger brother one day. And you're like, holy shit, I'm literally living alone in my home. That's pretty messed up. Mom may have contributed to this a little bit. I'd imagine that would be traumatizing. You go home and ain't nobody there.
Jeffrey was 18, and like most teens his age, he had active sexual fantasies. But Jeffrey's deviated from the norm to include thoughts of killing his lover. Now, the isolation of the empty family home gave him the opportunity to act out those fantasies.
Okay, if mom moves out with younger brother, why the fuck wouldn't dad move back in? I'm at a loss for that one. I'm at a loss for that one. Mom and younger brother just disappear one day, and dad doesn't say, all right, I'm coming home. He's just like, I'm good.
Just weeks after graduation, Jeffrey picked up a hitchhiker along the road. It was 18-year-old Stephen Hicks.
I wish I just kept on going, but I didn't. Turned around, picked him up, and that's when the nightmare became a reality.
And that's Jeffrey Dahmer telling this. Jeffrey Dahmer gave a lot of interviews, and he was murdered in prison. A guy beat him to death with a broom handle, if I recall correctly, just because he was being creepy and weird around other inmates. I think it was a huge loss that Jeffrey Dahmer was killed in prison. Why? Because he was giving these interviews. He was meeting with psychologists and psychiatrists. We were getting some very, very valuable insight into how monsters like this develop. How, what was going on in his life? What was happening? How did this progress? They were getting some unprecedented insight into the human psyche and what triggers this kind of action. And suddenly their access to this mind was gone.
Jeffrey invited Hicks back to the house. They drank beers and spent a couple of hours just hanging out. Then Hicks said he had to go, but Jeffrey didn't want to be alone. He attacked Hicks, knocking him out with a barbell, and then he strangled him. Dahmer had fulfilled his fantasy, but he was lucid enough to know that he had committed a murder. He quickly began to hide the evidence. He dismembered Hicks' body with a knife, a skill he had practiced as a younger teen with roadkill. He put the pieces into trash bags and loaded them into his car in the middle of the night. He was heading for a dump site when he was pulled over by the police for drifting across the center line. The officers asked Jeff what was in the bags and why he was out so late. Jeff was trapped for the first time, but he was ready with a lie. He coolly told the cops he was troubled by his parents' divorce and couldn't sleep, so he thought a trip to the dump would take his mind off things. The police let him go with a ticket. Jeff returned home, racked with guilt over the murder.
Now, you're going to notice through this that the police had several opportunities where he could have been arrested, but he managed to talk his way out of situations. Turtle Dove. What's in the bags? What's in the fucking bags? It's so wow. Anyway, moving right along.
He stashed the bones of Stephen Hicks under the house for 2 weeks. Then he smashed them to bits with a sledgehammer. Behind the house, Jeff spun in a circle, tossing the fragments among the leaves and brush. In August, Jeffrey's father stopped by the house.
Why the fuck would his dad let him stay alone in the home for months and months and months as a 17, 18-year-old kid? Gah.
I said, where is your mother?
And so here we have, he didn't know his mother was going to. What kind of fucking father doesn't talk to their. I mean, he graduated from high school. Dad didn't go to his high school graduation. Dad didn't know mom wasn't there. This.
Where's Dave? And he said, they're gone. I said, well, what do you mean? They're gone. They've left.
Jeff's father moved back into the house. He encouraged Jeff to find a job. But Jeff wasn't interested. He spent his days drinking, even getting himself.
Now, see, this is the thing. Again, mom wasn't around to give him money for food and stuff. How was he living for these 3 months? How was he buying the booze? What money was he using without a job? This is just weird. And fuck dad for this. I mean, seriously. Waller says the legal vices neglect. Monsters like Dahmer are not born, they're made. See, and that is really what I wonder. What mixture of nature versus nurture creates something like this?
Arrested for public intoxication. Lionel took his son to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and psychological counseling sessions. They had little impact. Nothing could erase the violence and terror his first murder
Stealing
had imprinted on
and
his mind.
free Costco samples.
Only the alcohol seemed to provide relief. By the end of the summer, Jeff was still jobless, so Lionel suggested an alternative, college. He enrolled Jeff at Ohio State. But Jeff spent the entire first quarter in a drunken stupor, selling his blood to plasma centers and spending the money on beer.
I can understand that.
Dahmer flunked out and returned home.
I said, Jeff, the doors are closing. I think perhaps that the armed services might be something that you need.
Like all the other choices that had been made for him, Jeff passively went along with his enlistment. After his basic training was complete, he left for an army hospital in San Antonio, Texas, where he was given specialized instruction as a field medic. There, Dahmer learned more about human anatomy.
Yeah,
For one of the
oops.
first times in his life, he was excited about what he was doing, responding to instruction and discipline.
Oops.
After 6 months in the army, his sluggish body had become lean and strong. Normally shy and reclusive, Jeff became outgoing, even smiling. But the mood swing was temporary. The army sent him for a tour of duty in Germany, and there, once again, Jeff emptied bottle after bottle. His superiors noticed and gave Dahmer an early discharge. He went directly to Miami Beach without contacting his family. He worked in a sandwich shop and lived out of a motel. When his booze bills exceeded the room costs, Jeff took to sleeping on the beach.
I'm lucky there's a beach right across my street. My booze costs haven't exceeded my living expenses yet, but yeah, I still got some time to work that out.
And he was terrified one night when a big, huge rat came crawling over him, and he called us. He said, he needs some money. I said, we won't send you money, but we'll send you a ticket. You come home. So I met him at the airport, Cleveland Hopkins Airport. And he had a smile on his face. But as I got closer, it wasn't a smile of happiness. It was a smile of inebriation.
Lionel tried for a year to help his alcoholic son, to no avail. Jeff was sent to stay with his father's mother near Milwaukee. There, he seemed to find some stability at last, making a concentrated effort to turn his life around. He stopped drinking, went to church with his grandmother, and he fought what he believed were immoral homosexual urges, which eventually led to his inescapable fantasies about murder. Dahmer even found jobs, first at a blood bank and then working nights as a chocolate mixer in a candy factory. But the lifestyle of church-going and right living, as he called it, didn't last.
Now that is actually, I mean, that is a huge problem in Utah with gay Mormon youths. You know, you have a huge pressure. It's evil. It's a sin. Can't go to heaven. Blah blah blah. And you know, how do you rectify that with? I believe this doctrine. I believe all this church stuff. But this is the way I'm programmed, and I'm going to hell for it. Yeah, that can screw up a lot of people. And then you throw in some good old fashioned electroshock or conversion therapy, and you can really, really fuck up a kid. You know, that mixture of down home revivalist religion and homosexuality has caused some serious damage to kids.
After 3 quiet years in his grandmother's home, Jeff came face to face with his fears. At the library, a man handed him a note offering sexual favors. Dahmer declined,
Creeper.
but he would later say the note was a turning point. It awakened sexual desires deep inside him. Specifically, he wanted the submissive company of another male. He wanted someone to fulfill his sexual needs, but he didn't want to be burdened by anyone else's needs. Jeffrey started with a perfectly submissive partner. He stole a store window mannequin. He kept the plastic man in his closet, bringing it out to masturbate onto until his grandmother found it and insisted he get rid of it.
Red flag, red flag, red flag.
On his free nights, Jeffrey began exploring gay life in Milwaukee, browsing through porn shops and going to bathhouses. The bath clubs catered mostly to men seeking anonymous sex. To make his partners there submissive, Jeffrey gave them drinks laced with sleeping pills.
Roofies.
When they fell unconscious, he would lie down next to them, listening to the sounds of their bodies, their heartbeats, their stomachs. But the drugging experiments ended when one man overdosed and spent a week in the hospital. Jeff was asked never to return to the club. But he then discovered the gay bars and discos of Milwaukee. These would become the killer's favorite hunting grounds. By his late 20s, Jeffrey Dahmer was settled in Milwaukee, living at his grandmother's and prowling the city's gay scene. No one suspected that this reclusive loner with boyish good looks was on his way to becoming a psychopathic serial killer.
He did take pleasure in the fact that he was in control of his own little world, that nobody knew what was going on, that he was the master of it.
Dahmer could fit in with any group, and you wouldn't say, oh,
that he was the...
That is a stash right there. That's a stash I'm jealous of. Doesn't match his face, but you just detach the stash, and that's a good stash there. Robin, you don't think he was I think he was a decent looking guy, but I am not in the habit of evaluating dudes' looks. But if I was a girl, I would think, hey, he's a pretty decent looking guy. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't look real though. It sort of does look like it was like a costume store, like stick-on deal. He just needs like the nose, the Groucho Marx nose and glasses to go with it. But that's a nice little stash. It doesn't look real.
Master of it.
Dahmer could fit in with any group, and you wouldn't say, oh, he must be crazy or he must be a killer. That's why he was so successful.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? They blend in. I mean, that was the deal with Ted Bundy. That was his moniker, the stranger next door. Everyone's like, And I can't remember which comedian way back in the day had a bit about this. How everybody's like, oh, he was such a good young man. He was such a fine young man. He was such a quiet guy. We never saw this coming. That's what they say about every serial killer. This comedian said, just once, I would like to hear someone say, oh, we saw this fucker coming a mile away. This dude was nuts. This dude was insane. This is a surprise to no one. That's how come they're successful. Nobody looks at them and goes, okay, this dude's a freaking freak. People have disappeared. We know it was him. That was blend in. They're just normal dudes with these weird, dark things that they've become experts at hiding, Dexter style.
He was not a repulsive individual.
Certainly not in Milwaukee's gay nightclubs.
We have it on good facts that he was considered somewhat of a honey in the gay community, that people found him attractive. So
I'm sure they find your stash attractive too there, sir. Fly your freak flag.
several people told us that he was the kind of guy that you wanted to take care of. You wanted to baby him.
But Dahmer had very specific requirements for his men.
He chose a body style. He liked long, lean, smooth, muscular body styles. And it didn't matter if they were black, white, yellow, red, or brown. If he found them attractive, he would try to get them.
In November 1987, Dahmer met 25-year-old Steve Toomey at a downtown club called 219. After a few drinks, they left the bar for a night at the nearby Ambassador Hotel. Dahmer used an old trick to get Toomey into the submissive state he craved.
I put some sleeping pills in his drink to render him conscious. And was just going to spend the night with him. When I woke up in the morning, my forearms were bruised and his chest was bruised and blood was coming out of his mouth. He was hanging over the side of the bed. And I have no memory of beating him to death, but I must have.
But Dahmer didn't panic. He went out and bought the biggest suitcase he could find. At the hotel, he crammed Toomey's body into the case, dragged it into a taxi, went back to his grandmother's house, and dismembered Toomey in the basement.
That's when the obsession went into full swing.
He decided after that second death that he would no longer attempt to control his desires, that he would give full rein to them, yield entirely to them, and after that, his life became the pursuit.
He broke Dexter's rules.
Pleasure.
Only
Dahmer
criminals.
now decided to pursue his fantasies of ultimate control. It was no longer enough to have his partners submissive just for a night. He wanted to keep them that way forever. So with the intent to murder and then butcher the men he picked up, Dahmer returned to the clubs. At a bus stop outside 219, he met 14-year-old James Doc Stater. Dahmer offered him $50 to spend the night with him. They took the bus back to Dahmer's grandmother's. While she slept, Jeff and Doc Stater had oral sex. Then Dahmer drugged and strangled him, his preferred method for killing.
He stated in no way did he ever want to hurt anybody. As funny as this sounds, that is the reason why he killed everyone by strangling them, because not only did he get the power and the thrill of committing the murder, but it was also the most humane way.
With Doc Stater, Dahmer further explored his dark fantasies. He hid the body in the basement for a week and continued to have sex with it.
Most
Yeah. And this, if you're keeping score, is number 3 of 17. Gonna be a yikes from me, dog. Yep. Necrophilia and necrophage. Hey, the Witcher necrophages are cool though. Anyway, whatever. Yeah. In case you didn't hear what he just said.
Main way.
With Doc Stater, Dahmer further explored his dark fantasies. He hid the body in the basement for a week and continued to have sex with it.
Most serial killers are sexual deviants who are social and psychological sociopaths and sexual paths who kill people for their own sexual gratification. Dahmer's was different than that. He was a true necrophiliac. He was trying to have sex with an unconscious or dead person.
Once James Doc Stater began to decay.
Now, see, this is why I'm wondering what we talked about just a little bit earlier when he was when he was hitting puberty, and he was getting this arousal from doing the deviant thing of dissecting roadkill. If somewhere in his brain he began to associate death with arousal, and then at this point in his life he can only get aroused by either simulated or actual death. This is messed up. Goodbye monetization for this stream, as I've said. Not even pretending at this point. But yeah, I mean, just this dynamic is rough. I mean, again, is this just hardwired in? Is the possibility hardwired in and triggered by something, or does this develop through a fucked up childhood, or is it some big pot of stew with all these parts and you know what I mean, is it, with all of these factors blended together? That's why we have Chevy says, holy shit, look, a bullet for this far gone is the only for people this far gone is the only answer. Again, I disagree, and that's why I thought his death was a tragedy, in the effect that he was explaining in detail to anyone who would ask what was going on in his head at the time, what he was thinking, why he was doing it. He was opening up this field of psychology that is so rare we ever get an insight into. And it was taken away from the scientific and psychiatric community. Well, Lisa M, thank you so much for the donation. Lately it's been busy at work, but have you on in the background. I appreciate the time you dedicate to us and different things you share. Thank you. Well, thank you for the donation. And today is the extraordinarily exceptional different things we're sharing. Yeah. Oh, Steve C, thank you so much for your donate. That is a big deal for the demonetization fund. Thank you for contributing to the demonetization fund. Keep on keeping on. And what an interesting speciality. Speciality. Look at me. I'm a fucking posh moron. Specialty. And what an interesting specialty, maritime law. Yep. Monday we'll get back to our normal ships that go bump in the night. But yeah, back to Dahmer. And this is going interesting places. We're halfway through this right now, but this is going, I think, interesting places. At least for me.
Necrophiliac. He was trying to have sex with an unconscious or dead person.
Once James Doc Stater began to decay, Dahmer dismembered him in the basement near a floor drain, just as he had with Toomey. Dahmer was now drinking heavily again, especially on the nights he planned to murder.
Oh God, I wish those were still the prices.
He would be stone drunk.
He drank because his conscience was so strong.
Dimitri
this isn't
vodka.
a man that didn't know the difference of right from wrong.
2 months after killing Doc Stater, Dahmer picked up 21-year-old Richard Guerrero from a Milwaukee bar, again offering him money to spend the night. In a familiar pattern, Dahmer drugged and strangled him. He spent a few hours with the corpse before dismembering it. He then placed the body parts into trash bags for the city garbage collection the next day.
Yikes.
In the summer of 1988, Jeff's grandmother asked him to move out. She had been troubled by Jeff's late hours, the mannequin in his bedroom, and now unidentified foul smells from the basement. He took an apartment on Milwaukee's west side and immediately accelerated.
He
his
hasn't
downward
started eating
spiral
them yet.
when he approached a 13-year-old boy on the street and lured him into the apartment. Inside, Dahmer scared the boy by fondling him, and the youngster ran from the apartment. Dahmer was convicted on second-degree sexual assault charges only. The murders were still his secret.
See, he got caught, and he was convicted of SA on a child. He was caught, but they didn't know about the murders.
He was sentenced to 1 year in a work release program that required him to spend his nights in a prison dormitory while he continued working at the chocolate factory. In the 10 days before he began his sentence, Dahmer struck again. He met 26-year-old Anthony Sears at the gay club La Cage and killed him. He mummified Sears' head and genitals and kept them inside his locker at the chocolate factory. Towards the end of the work,
I'm sure that's a health code violation. I'm sure keeping a mummified head and schlong in your locker is a violation of health and safety laws. I'm sure the health inspector may have a thing or two to say about that.
release term, Jeff's father wrote to the judge and urged him to put Jeff in an alcoholic treatment program, writing, "I have tremendous reservations regarding Jeff's chances when he hits the streets." No program was ordered. Jeff was released 2 months early. He moved into another low-income neighborhood in Milwaukee. The rent at the Oxford Apartments was cheap, and the location was close to the gay clubs. On his own again, he was free to feed his relentless sexual urges. Within 3 weeks of his release, Dahmer began a 1-year killing frenzy. He would leave 13 more families, most of them African-American, searching for loved ones who had simply disappeared. The police, too, searched in vain.
Once Jeff started on his killing spree, all of his financial resources, all of his time, money, effort, desires, emotions, thoughts went into his secret world of killing people and keeping them with him. Many times he talked about trying to fight it, even after he had killed a couple people, saying how he wasn't going to do it again. But within a month, he would be back out at the bar stalking.
He knew it was wrong, but he couldn't stop it.
One victim almost got away. Dahmer had drugged 14-year-old Conorak Synthosymphones.
What the Christ is that?
Because she's really flipping through those.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't memorized.
My phone is possessed. What the shit? Hang on. My phone decided it was going to start broadcasting playing a YouTube video. What is it? Wow, that was weird. My phone just randomly started playing a video by Law Talk with Mike. That was weird. All right, the ghosts of Dahmer's victims are coming to haunt my phone. Fuck me, I'm screwed. God damn it! Seriously, it's the kid's ghost. No, I remember this story on the news. In Utah, this story made the news, and it is a fucked up story how close they came to nailing Dahmer, but he managed to talk them out of it.
The brother of the boy Dahmer had been jailed for molesting the year before. As Conorak slept, Dahmer went out to buy more liquor. But while he was gone, the teen woke up. He staggered out into the street naked. A concerned neighbor called 911.
Emergency operator 71.
Okay, hi. I'm on 25th and State, and this is young man. He is butt naked. He has been beaten up. He is very bruised up. He can't stand. He's study fall out. He is butt naked. He has no clothes on. He was really hurt.
Police arrived. By this time, Dahmer had returned from his beer run. As he had with police in Bath, Ohio, after his first killing, Dahmer smoothly lied. He told police that Konarak was his gay lover who simply had too much to drink. He brought the cops into his apartment and showed them Polaroids he'd taken of the teen. Proof, he said, of their relationship.
Yeah, I remember this on the news. It made the news in Utah that there was I think what was it? They convinced the cops that this 14-year-old kid was 24 years old. It was. I remember the news story about a naked man being found and people being concerned and being told it was he was drunk and he'd run out of the house in a drunken stupor after a fight with his gay lover. And I remember seeing this on the news. And then later when Dahmer was caught and this was one of his victims, I remember thinking, holy fuck. I remember that story on TV. This is the story that gets me because I remember seeing this incident on the news. I give you $1 if we didn't just buy 8 damn plane tickets to go visit family in Utah for a month. Yeah, I'm leaving in 10 days to go back to Utah for a couple of weeks. Normally a ticket is about $1,000 or $1,200 round trip, but now because of COVID and the lack of flights and the amount of people that want to travel, my round ticket was about $3,000. Economy class. So yeah, fuck plane ticket prices right now. I feel you. But yeah, so this, yeah, he was either 14 or 15, but Dahmer convinced him that he was an adult. And I mean, I remember this incident and it freaked me out when they arrested Dahmer and this was one of his victims.
The police believed the 14-year-old was of legal age and left him behind with Dahmer. They wrote the incident off as a lover's quarrel. Again, Dahmer had been slippery enough to keep his killings a secret. As soon as the cops left, he murdered the boy.
Major police fuck up there.
Inside Dahmer's apartment, the bodies began to pile up. So he bought a 57-gallon drum and filled it with a powerful acid to dissolve the dismembered limbs and torsos. After weeks in the acid, the remains of Dahmer's would-be lovers became sludge, which he flushed down the toilet or the bathtub drain. For others, Jeffrey boiled the skin off their bones on the stove. A sweet, bitter odor of death began to infest the building, and many tenants traced the smells straight to Dahmer's door.
It's awful funny. Whatever Jeff was cooking, Jeff never bought no groceries. So what?
Sorry, that is the most fucked up statement of this entire documentary. I love black women. If there are any black women here in the chat, I love you because you say real shit. You say real shit. A white woman would just be like, we smelled something really bad from that apartment. We didn't know what it was, but we didn't approve of it. But Pamela is solid fucking based, man. Black women, they have a way of saying shit that is just poetry. Statuesque Miss 2845. I'm a tall black woman. Cheers to keeping it real. Hell yeah. I was wondering because you said you were statuesque. How tall are you, just for curiosity's sake? But seriously, black women don't fuck around. They will keep it real with you and they will tell you what's up. And my mother, God rest her amazing soul. She grew up in Paterson, New Jersey. And at one point, apparently she was the only white girl in an all black girl gang. Coco, nice one. Yeah. So my mom was that same way. I'm sure it was a product of her upbringing in Paterson. But yeah, and then she was Paterson, then Chicago, and then Santa Monica, California. My mother had zero fucking filter on her. And I really want to make a book of like sayings my mother said, because they were just like that. God bless this Bass woman. That is it. They will keep it 6'2". Sweet. I like tall women. Oh, Matthew Giannotti is also 6'2". Hey there. Just saying. I'm a measly 5'11", but I like tall girls. Oh, and you heal it up. I have a thing for tall girls. That's one of, I mean, not only tall girls, but tall girls is a definite thing for me. Anywho, moving right along, let's get back to this statement. That's awesome. I love this. This is the most real fucking thing from the whole day.
The building, and many tenants traced the smells straight to Dahmer's door.
It's awful funny. Whatever Jeff was cooking, Jeff never bought no groceries.
That is so awesome. Whatever Jeff is cooking, Jeff ain't buying no groceries. Oh God, that is beautiful. Whatever Jeff is cooking, Jeff ain't buying no groceries.
So what could he have been cooking that smelled like
meat?
Chitlins. Chitlins have a very
chitlins. Oh God!
You know.
Dahmer was pathologically lonesome, not wanting his sexual partners to leave him even after death. He took keepsake photos while removing their flesh and then preserved certain parts.
And one thing led to another. It took more and more
You're sick.
deviant type behaviors to satisfy my urges.
He devised a plan to build a shrine out of skeletons and skulls, but he was still in search of the perfect partner, one who was completely submissive but alive and not prone to decay. On a few still living victims, Dahmer used...
Okay, we're getting into like parts of this that you have to laugh at or just scream your fucking heart out. I mean, and this is an occupational hazard for doctors, policemen, firemen, and lawyers. We hear such vile shit through the course of our lives that you either have to laugh at it, find some sick, dark humor in it, or you just lose your goddamn mind. And I think Dahmer's aiming high here. His goals in life: find someone that's still alive and not prone to decay. I mean, you know, aiming for the sun and hitting the moon is better than aiming for the moon and hitting a bird, I guess. Oh. And well, as long as we're talking about chitlins, pork intestines, Koreans have this amazing dish called gopchang, which is essentially pork intestines, and it is one of my goddamn favorite dishes because they like raise the pigs to be extra fatty, so you get like the intestines just have this amazing amount of fat in them, and you grill them up and they just melt in your mouth. Oh my God, it's so good. I think that's what I'm gonna do some like Korean food videos that are gonna be pretty darn awesome. The pork intestine dishes are some of the best damn food you'll ever eat in your life. Anyway, let's get back to the star of our show here, the guy who is now setting his eyes on someone who is alive and not prone to decay. Two good relationship goals. If you're only going to have two relationship goals, if you've only got two characteristics you're looking for, alive and not prone to decay, are probably the two you want to focus on.
Used a power drill to open small holes in their skulls. Then he injected acid into their brains.
Not that part. Don't do that shit. That shit's fucked up. Don't drill holes in their skulls and try to create zombies. Wow, my last outburst just cost me 4 subscribers. Don't unsubscribe for this. I'm just being sick tonight. If this offends you, just check out, go about your day, and come back tomorrow for Alec Baldwin. Don't be freaked out. You know, some topics aren't for everybody. Just roll with it, let it go, get on with your day, and come back for something that is you. Look for the notifications, and you'll get something that tickles your fancy. Tomorrow, I swear to God, we're going back to interrogations relating to the Alec Baldwin shooting. So don't freak the fuck out and run away and unsubscribe like someone just did right now. Whoever just unsubscribed while I was saying don't unsubscribe, fuck you. Come back. All right. And what do we got going on here? We've got 341 of you here now. Please like this video. If you're here because you like this video. Hit that subscribe button. Let's push up the subscriptions. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. We've got to make up a five subscriber deficit we've incurred in the last 2 hours and 16 minutes. Oh my God. Yeah, don't go drilling holes in their skulls and pouring in acid and trying to make sex slave zombies. I'm not his dad's a chemist. His dad should be able to tell him, no, that ain't going to work, son. But
partner, one who was completely submissive, but alive and not prone to decay.
Oh, God.
On a few still living victims, Dahmer used a power drill to open small holes in their skulls. Then he injected acid into their brains. According to Dahmer, none of his experimental zombies lived longer than a day.
Well, you fucking
and
think?
In perhaps the ultimate effort to keep his victims with him, Dahmer began eating their flesh.
It made me feel like they were a permanent part of me.
But doesn't he look like the Reanimator guy anyway? He looks like the guy that was in the Lovecraft movie Reanimator. But yeah, I mean, that's weird that he ate them so that they would feel like a permanent part of him. It's fucking weird, fucking wrong, fucking sick. But from that weird, twisted, sick, and wrong point of view, it does make a little bit of sense.
Besides the just mere curiosity of what it would be like, it made them feel that they were a part of me in it.
And see, that's why I'm thinking Shabusiness, she took a taste. Shabusiness had to have taken a taste. If she's wondering what's it like to kill somebody I love, if she's wondering like what's it like to chop up a human body, she's got to be asking herself what's it like to take a little nibble. And as I said, if she did take a nibble out of her boyfriend, that would be the least fucked up thing she did that night. Just saying.
It gave me
he does look a little bit like a young Stephen King.
Satisfaction to do that.
Throughout this year of ruthless killing, Dahmer still appeared outwardly normal. In this video, taken at his grandmother's house on Thanksgiving, Dahmer talked calmly with his father.
Well, you're looking good. Grandma was saying that she thought that you got quite a bit thinner, but you look fit. I don't know.
Well, I've been surviving mostly on McDonald's food. It's just so much easier just to pop into a restaurant. But
yeah,
like I've said before, it gets too expensive, and
it does.
I have to start eating at home more.
It's amazing how he could sit there and appear like he's, clean cut, nice jacket on, and talking very hopefully about his job, intelligent.
That's a very interesting perspective.
It's amazing how much a human being can hide from another human being.
But careful as he was, Jeffrey Dahmer was about to run out of good lies. In July 1991, the city of Milwaukee discovered a serial killer, 31-year-old Jeffrey Dahmer.
How did they find him?
Tracy Edwards had managed to escape from the horrors of Dahmer's apartment and flag down a passing patrol car. When the officers entered the apartment, they found 83 Polaroids of bodies in various stages of dismemberment. There were more shocking discoveries in the kitchen.
There were 4 fully enfleshed skulls still there, sitting in a refrigerator. One of the officers said he opened the icebox. He heard a scream. It was only later that he realized that it was he himself who had screamed.
TV news cameras rolled as what was left of the victims was carried out.
There are people in those boxes and blue plastic acid filled containers. There's people in there.
The 57-gallon drum filled with the torsos of 3 men. A freezer with dismembered limbs and flesh. Metal cooking pots with mummified hands and genitals. This time, there was no lie Dahmer could tell to save himself.
He was walking in a pretty defeated manner. His shoulders were hunched, his head was down. He was sweating profusely. Kind of had a faint, kind of a whining, like a baby crying noise about him.
At the police station, detectives began a marathon interview with the suspected killer. Dahmer at first blamed the booze instead of himself, saying he wouldn't have been caught if he hadn't been so drunk. But Dahmer was now clearly scared.
The look of terror and almost hysteria that he had on his face in the interrogation room that first night as he was coming down off the alcohol and finally realizing that the gig was up. He was caught. He did cry several times. He went into a rage. Besides asking to kill himself, he stood up and pounced around a couple times.
Once Dahmer sobered up, no one could guess.
It's official. It's official from YouTube. We have been demonetized for this stream. Ain't no ad money coming in from this bitch. we have crossed YouTube's line with Schabusiness and Dahmer. All right, I've just got to reconcile the fact that anytime I talk about Schabusiness, ain't getting paid by YouTube. Oh my God. All right. That's why the McRib is limited in supply. No, James, it doesn't mean that advertisers don't like serial killers. It means that advertisers think their prospective consumers don't like serial killers. Oh, Lordy. But, oh, where'd we go? Shit. I hate when this thing scrolls so fast. Pope Raggers touched me, but what's in the box? What's in the fucking box? Oh, what's in the box? Best movie ever. Well, not really best movie ever, but a very good go-to movie line. All righty then. Goodbye, ad revenue. Oh, shit. Hit that like and subscribe. Let's tell YouTube to go fuck themselves with their demonetization bullshit. We've got about 500 likes so far. I think it would be awesome to get 600 in the next 30 minutes or so. And if anybody wants to subscribe at this point, go ahead. Oh, Lord.
At the gruesome details to follow.
He made this statement: when I tell you what I'm going to tell you, you're going to be famous. And I tried to say, look, Jeff, there's nothing that you can tell me that is going to freak me out. And he laughed at that. He said, you don't know. You don't know what I've done.
And then he freaked him out.
Dahmer spent the next 6 weeks with the detectives, recounting the murders of 17 men, a 159-page confession. It seemed cathartic to Dahmer to finally get the deeds of the last 13 years off his chest. With the information from his confession, investigators went back to Dahmer's childhood home in Bath, Ohio. They raked up the shattered bones of Stephen Hicks, Dahmer's.
Yikes. Yeah, bones don't go away that well. Robert, thank you very much, sir. Fuck YouTube. This is educational. Here's $5 to cover your YouTubes. Can we cover John Wayne Gary next? John Wayne Gacy, the clown. And that was $10 rather than 5. Oh my God. I'm sorry if you doubled what you thought you were giving me. But yeah, I hadn't thought about John Wayne Gacy. But yeah, we can do some John Wayne Gacy. That's not nearly as fucked up as this, as hard as that is to believe. But yeah, well, we can do some John Wayne Gacy at some point. And again, I don't mention being demonetized as a cover for begging for super chats. I just find it fucking hilarious. It was more from an amusing point of view than a begging point of view. Please don't feel obligated. But then again, if you really want to, hey, I'm not dumb. I ain't gonna say no. Marloka, thank you for the super sticker. Bless you, my child. Oh, fuck YouTube. This is awesome. All righty. We're in for the long haul here. Let's keep it going.
First victim.
Oh, here we
The
go.
Milwaukee
Come for the
County
hat, stay for the
coroner
chat.
started
I might
matching
use that.
skulls with torsos, and the police began the sad task of notifying families. Dahmer pleaded guilty but insane. The issue of his sanity would be the sole question before the jury.
That's a very important thing. Again, it's not that he said, I'm not guilty because I'm insane. He said, I did this shit, but I'm insane. That is a huge, huge difference. It's subtle, but it's it appears subtle, but it's actually a huge difference. He's not denying liability. He's not saying I didn't do this. Holy shit. Hang on. Houston,
The
we
issue of his sanity
we
would be
have
the
a
sole
problem.
question before the jury.
My monitor
You
has
know
gone blank.
immediately that it's going to be probably an insanity defense.
I'm going to let
But
this
you
run
argue
in just a second while I fucking fix
you can't
this.
say you don't know how those bodies got there.
Wisconsin had no death penalty, so if the jury found him sane, he would spend the rest of his life in prison. If they found him insane, he would be imprisoned in a mental facility. Dahmer himself couldn't understand why he enjoyed fantasizing about murder.
Jeffrey thought he was the devil. Jeffrey thought he was so evil that he was equal to the devil. And he knew there was something wrong with him, but he didn't know what it was, but he never.
Hi again. How are y'all there? That's what. All right. Some confessions into the nervous habits of legal vices. My toes were playing with cables under my desk here, and it appears one of the cables I was playing with was my monitor cable, and I somehow wiggled it around enough that it came loose and disconnected my monitor. Andrew Frank, not too far off. I was just apparently playing with the monitor cable and loosened it a bit. Made in Iron, good to see you again. Thank you for the donation, Made in Iron. You rock, as does Made in Iron. I know it's Iron Maiden, but you know what I mean. It's not much, but here's something for a cup of coffee. F YouTube. Oh, again, please don't feel obligated, but hey, I deeply, deeply appreciate it, and I'll probably spend it on booze. Oh God. All right. Back this up a little bit because I was involved in other things.
It's going to be probably an insanity defense. What can you argue? You can't claim self-defense. You can't say you don't know how those bodies got there.
Wisconsin had no death penalty, so if the jury found him sane, he would spend the rest of his life in prison. If they found him insane, he would be imprisoned in a mental facility. Dahmer himself couldn't understand why he enjoyed fantasizing about murder.
Jeffrey thought he was the devil. Jeffrey thought he was so evil that he was equal to the devil. And he knew there was something wrong with him, but he didn't know what it was, but he never categorized himself as being insane.
Turtle says, I don't get it either. He didn't get why he was. But see, this is the thing is, he knows it's right. He knows he did it, but he doesn't allegedly understand why he did it, why he was compelled to do it, why he had this compulsion. He knows he did it, but he doesn't know why he did it. I mean, whether he's full of shit or not, I don't know. But the assertion is kind of an interesting assertion.
The man who entered the Milwaukee County courtroom in January 1992 appeared completely normal until the words of his confession were read in court by Lieutenant Dennis Murphy.
He related this was a person he really liked. He indicated that he had filleted his heart and kept it in the freezer, and he also kept his bicep. He indicated that he had eaten the thigh muscle of this subject, but it was so tough he could hardly.
Okay, let's pause here for the legal question from Robert. Thank you very much, sir. Legal question: how can he plead insanity but be coherent enough to know he is insane? What, an insane person shouldn't be able to understand he has become insane, or is there a legal policy? Again, I know less than zero about Wisconsin law, but just generally, vaguely speaking about things as I understand them, and nothing I say should be construed as legal advice or legal opinion in any way, shape, or form. It is purely the opinion of your host this evening. If you plead not guilty by reason of insanity, you're saying that what you did at the time, you did not. You lacked the mental capacity to know what you were doing was wrong. You were insane to the point that you did not understand or comprehend what you were doing was wrong. So therefore, you're guilty. You're not guilty because you didn't know it would. To be guilty, to commit a crime, you have to have the mens rea. You have to have the mental. What would be mens rea in English? You have to have the mental viewpoint, the mental position to know what you have to have the intent. That's what we call it. The intent to do a wrong thing. But if you don't realize it's wrong, if you're insane and don't realize what you're doing is wrong, then you don't have the mental capacity to commit a wrongful act, to commit a criminal act. You can't have the intention to commit the criminal act if in your mind you are so fucked up you don't understand that it's a crime. So that would be like not guilty by reason of insanity. You lack the mental capacity to know it was a crime. But however, if you plead guilty but insane, and not guilty by reason of insanity, might get you sent to a mental institution. It might just it would get you sent to a mental institution ordinarily until they say, okay, you're now sane enough to be released into society. But so that's guilty. That's not guilty by reason of insanity. I'm not guilty because I didn't have the mental capacity to know what I was doing was a criminal act. Guilty but insane, which is what he pleaded, means I'm guilty. I know I did it. I know it was wrong, but I don't know. I was so fucked up mentally that I had no control over it. It was this overriding compulsion. I had zero ability to control my actions because I was insane or am insane. And the result of that is you're basically sent to a mental institution. And I don't know if you would be sent to the mental institution for the rest of your life or until you're declared sane enough to go to a regular prison for the rest of your life. So it's a subtle difference. It appears to be a subtle difference, but it's actually a huge difference. So to answer your question, he didn't plead insanity. He didn't plead not guilty by reason of insanity. He pled guilty, but argued he was insane and therefore should not be punished with life imprisonment, but rather should be sentenced to a mental facility to get help. So yeah, he knows what he was doing is wrong, but he doesn't know why he did it. That's kind of the argument that's being made. Again, it's a weird distinction, but it is a distinction. Brittany, thank you so much for your donation. Just another fool giving you money for booze. That's my favorite kind of fool, and anyone that does that is, by definition, not foolish. Cool rockabilly pinup vibe in the profile, by the way. Adrian H. Oh, Arian H. Why did I call you Adrian? Fuck me, I'm an idiot. Arian, I never have actually pronounced your name correctly, I think. Here's for making me laugh with your laugh. I'm not calling you old, but I think it's because it reminds me of my dad I haven't heard in 20 years. I assume it's because your father's passed, and bless you for that, and God rest his soul if that's the case. But hey, I'm 53. I can't do anything about it. I didn't ask to be born when I was born. So anyway, thank you guys so much for the donation. And Robert, I hope that answered your question sufficiently.
Hardly chew it.
Moving right along.
He then purchased a meat tenderizer and used it
Ariane,
on the
okay.
bicep.
Well, I don't know.
Dahmer's father, Lionel, sat in the courtroom beside his second wife, Sherry, stunned by what he heard.
No one softened the blow for us. No one told us, no one prepared us with any of these details. How could this be?
Well, how do you really soften the blow for your son murdered, fucked, and ate 17 people and kept mummified heads in his locker at work and had torsos and shit in his fridge? How do you soften that blow? I mean, I think that's sort of one of the, you just rip the Band-Aid off and get it over with as quickly as possible.
Could I have not known about it?
Dahmer's crimes seemed to be devastating proof of insanity. What else could explain the actions of a man who had sex with the dead, dismembered their bodies, preserved their skulls, and ate their flesh, all for sexual gratification? But the law has a very strict interpretation of insanity. Dahmer's defense team had to prove two things. One, that he indeed suffered from a mental disease, and that it kept him from knowing right from wrong. Necrophilia, a compulsion to have sex with the dead, is recognized as a sexual disorder, but it does not make one legally insane.
He argued that the necrophilic drive was such that he could not control it. But we don't accept that in the United States as a defense, no more than we accept a pedophilic drive of the man who wants to have sex with children.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I understand you have arrived at verdicts on this matter.
In a 10-2 decision, the jury found Jeffrey Dahmer legally sane. Some relatives of Dahmer's victims sat quietly in court, others cried. Prior to his sentencing, they were allowed to express themselves before the judge.
Jeffrey, I hate you! I hate you! That is not control! Don't I kill you! Don't get me, motherfucker! I kill you! I kill you!
Once order was restored, Dahmer spoke publicly for the first time.
I feel so bad for what I did to those poor families, and I understand their rightful hate.
And I haven't, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. I haven't seen this documentary before. So we're watching this live together. And I know where he's fucking going with this because I remember him saying this shit. This is the shit I hate. I hate when fuckers do this. And fuck him for saying this shit. Seriously. Holy God. I'm surprised. We've picked up 10 subscribers in the last couple of minutes. Bless all of you who are adult and wise enough to understand the educational value of what we're talking about and aren't freaked out by the subject matter and realize we're going to be talking about a lot more mundane and normal things tomorrow. But yeah, he's going to say some shit right now that pisses me off because it's the same fucking shit that everybody in his situation does. And bless you if you know where this is going. Oh yeah, Matthew Giannotti hits it on the head. Not religion, none of that. Yeah, that's where Jeffrey Dahmer went.
I have seen their tears, and if I could give my life right now to bring their loved ones back, I would do it. I am so very sorry.
Many questions.
Oh, they edited it out. They edited it out. What he said in his statement was, I can only be forgiven through salvation by our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He went down that road. He went down the Jesus can save my soul for what I've done shit. Fuck you. I believe that is one of the 10 commandments that we're not supposed to kill, fuck, and eat our neighbors. Yeah. Yeah, he went down the religion trail. They cut it out of this. But that bullshit was the bullshit he pulled. I can only be saved through the grace of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, or however he worded it. Fuck the people that do that shit. I do really, really horrible shit, and then Jesus saves me. Yeah. I mean, if you want to make the argument for the religious side, that's correct. But from the religious point of view, that may be correct. But from my religious point of view, right, that's a fuck you, asshole. You can't use that as a crutch to make your little fucking mind feel better. So F that. Screw you. Seriously. Renovati, in law school, they should have an advocacy test of having to run a plea and mitigation for Jeffrey Dahmer. That would sort wheat from the chaff. Yeah, okay, that it would. Kitty cat, meow. Thank you so much for the donation. Thought I missed my daily dose of Jeff. Nope, I'm rambling extra long tonight. Why? Because I am. Had medical appointments this morning. Would he have suffered from the high iron content in long pork? Long pork. Oh, hey, cool 17th, 18th century reference there. Nice. That's pretty good. Yeah, so I don't do this Jesus will save me from eating 17 people after fucking them and chopping them up into bits and drugging them and drilling holes in their skull and pouring. Yeah, I think there's kind of this eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, kind of Old Testament Jesus, Old Testament Jehovah, I guess, sitting out there going, yeah, okay, I know I said love one another and forgive them for they know not what they do and forgive them for their sins, but you fucked up way too much and you're toast, kind of a thing. Yeah, that's like an old 17th, 18th century terminology there. That is awesome. It should come back into vogue.
The emotional depth of Dahmer's apology, whether a man who killed so routinely had the conscience to feel remorse. The judge sentenced Dahmer to a 937-year prison term.
Well, Vicky T asks, did he eat their brains? Funny you should mention that. When they went into his apartment and arrested him, when they entered his apartment, he had a big pot full of human brains boiling on his stove at the instant they walked into his house. So the answer to your question is yes, not only did he eat their brains, he was boiling up a healthy pot of brains at the time the police went into his house. So, yup, brains. Brains.
But it would last only a few tormented years. Jeffrey Dahmer's final home was the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin. His former residence at the Oxford Apartments in Milwaukee stood as a painful reminder of the lives that ended there. So in November 1992, it was demolished.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would want to live there
at
anymore.
the age of 32, Dahmer.
That's a definite property value reducer right there. And again, he's 32.
His life became a conflicted introspection, trying to sort out the blame for his killing nature and seeking divine forgiveness for it. He had spent time in church as a boy and with his grandmother as an adult, but had lost his religion during the murder spree. Dahmer placed the blame for the murders on his atheistic beliefs and the theory of evolution.
He said, if it all happens naturalistically, what's the need for a God? Can't I set my own rules? Who owns me? I own myself.
Yet Jeffrey was still a contradiction, for he was always quite willing to blame the devil for taking over his soul. The serial killer wondered now what would happen to him when he died. Dahmer decided he wanted to be baptized. Evangelist Roy Ratcliffe was called by the prison minister to talk with the inmate in April 1994.
He was a very affable, congenial, likable sort of person. I always felt like I was dealing with a small boy in a grown-up man's body. He could get real excited and interested in neat or cool things that a little boy would get involved in.
1 month later, Dahmer was taken to the prison medical center, where he was baptized in a whirlpool.
On the way, we walked by other prisoners who were coming by with mops and brooms and various cleaning devices. And they looked up, and the only one they saw whom they recognized was Jeff. And so they called out in a very friendly, banter, "Hey, JD, how's it going?" And he called back, "I'm going to be baptized. This is great."
Dahmer appeared to be making a remarkable transformation in prison.
He would ask questions. He would say, "But wait, what about this? What about that?" So uncharacteristic of the earlier years. Go back to senior year in high school, you wouldn't get any of that. He was so interactive and so concerned about our welfare. He was reaching out. He was rehumanizing.
But those dark, haunted fantasies remained with Dahmer.
I'll probably have to live with it for the rest of my life. I wish it would go away. I wish there was some way to completely get rid of the compulsive thoughts, the feelings.
Dahmer got another reminder of his past when he was visited by Teresa Smith. Jeffrey had killed her brother, Eddie.
First thing when he did when he came in is apologize for killing my brother.
Arian H. Again, see, I got your name right this time because I saw the pronunciation. Wait, didn't he go with Mormonism? No, Dahmer did not go with Mormonism. There's no way that the Mormon church would have allowed him to be baptized. Not in a bajillion freaking years.
I asked him why my brother, and he said he seen the way he danced, and he liked the way he looked, and he said I was just attracted to him. He said he had strangled him, and then he was trying some new experiment or something with preserving the skull and the body and whatever, and it didn't work. So he had to destroy him.
Dahmer had spent his entire adult life as the predator. But now in prison, he became the prey. The notorious serial killer was a target for other inmates. In August 1994, he was attacked in the prison chapel with a crudely fashioned knife. He survived. But on November 29th, 1994, inmate Christopher Scarver, who called himself Christ, bludgeoned Dahmer with a metal rod from the prison gym. Dahmer died on the way to the hospital. Among his last wishes, Dahmer had asked to be cremated. His ashes were split between his mother and father.
There are statements in his will and testament that say, "I don't want a marker, I don't want a grave, I don't want a funeral, I don't want any kind of," he's saying, I want to be wiped out.
But the horrible questions that his life of killing posed do continue, and they defy answers.
There's a mystery of mysteries that will never be solved. Even if he lived, I don't know that what he was all about would ever be solved, except maybes.
It's hard when there's no explanations. Sure, there were red flags in Jeff's life, but no one knew about him. He was so secretive and so careful.
Wow. Well then. Which one was Ted Bundy? Ted Bundy was known as the Stranger Next Door. Lots of Netflix series about him. He admitted to killing, I believe, 19 people, mostly young nurses at the University of Utah. where I was, and University of Washington in Seattle, and a few other places around the country. He was convicted, escaped from prison a few times, and was later executed. But yes, he was, as Arian H was asking, he was baptized into the Mormon Church, but he wasn't an active person, and obviously, after he was convicted of kidnapping one of his victims, he was excommunicated. But I think that was one of the that was the baptism of convenience, so he could get it on with some of the girls in Utah. Yeah, but I have a Ted personal connection. I have two personal connections to Ted Bundy, actually, just for shits and giggles. And one of them deals with this question: was Ted Bundy a lawyer? My first connection to Ted Bundy deals with one of my friends had a girlfriend, and she was a pretty hot girlfriend. And I didn't see my friend for a couple of years, and we got back together again. And I asked my friend, so what what about that girl you were dating? He's, oh, we broke up a long time ago. And it was like, what was her name again? And he said, oh yeah, I can't remember what her name. I said, you think I'd be able to remember her name? Ted Bundy killed her mother. And I was like, what? So that was my first connection. Apparently one of my best friends growing up had a girlfriend whose mother was killed by Ted Bundy. But my second tie to Ted Bundy deals with my time at the University of Utah. I had a professor, my property professor. He was a billion years old. I mean, he was so old. I was in law school in 1993 to 1996. Yeah. And I'm pulling up an article here to see if this is something that I want to mention. Just give me okay. All right, yeah. I'm just I'm checking one fact here before I mention it, and I just want to be sure, because my mind has become fuzzy. My memory has gone over the years. All right, yeah, I'm not sure. Hang on, give me 1 second. Keep you hanging on this story. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, I've just confirmed what I thought I recalled correctly. It's been a long damn time since I've remembered this story. All right, my second tie to Ted Bundy deals with law school. I went to University of Utah, College of Law. My property professor was old as fuck. I started in 1993, and my property law professor began teaching law in 1939. Professor Swenson was his name. Professor Swenson was an old mofo. Let's see if I can pull up a quick bio for him. University of Utah. Professor Swenson. Was this him? No. We need College of Law. Okay, he died. Robert Swenson. He died at 83. And when was that? He died in 2002 at 83. So he was elderly. I'm really shitty at math, so I literally actually have to do a calculator for this because I'm an idiot when it comes to anything that remotely deals with numbers. 2002 minus 83. Shit. Clear that. 2002 minus 83. He was born in 1919, and I had him in 93. So he died 10 years after I had him. So he began teaching law apparently when he was 20 years old in 1939. I'm sorry, 1942, according to his bio. So yeah, he was an old mofo, but he still had a mind like a freaking steel trap. And he was on the selection committee. And when the first day of law school, in first period property law class, he was going around and he would say, okay, so-and-so, was your father so-and-so? And they go, yes. I taught your father. I taught your father in law school. Go further through the room. So-and-so, was your father so-and-so? Yes, I taught your father. Went to one girl and said, was your father so-and-so that I taught? And she said, no, that was my grandfather. So he taught one of my law school colleagues grandfather law. That's how damn old he was. But I was sitting in the back corner of the back row. And he got to me and said, Mr. Harrison. I said, yes, Professor Swenson. He said, congratulations. And me being a terrified out of my gourd first period, first day of law school student said, congratulations for what, Professor Swenson? He said, you are sitting in Ted Bundy's chair. So yeah, in my property classroom, I was sitting in Ted Bundy's chair. Yay. But yes, Ted Bundy went to University of Utah Law starting in 1974. And my understanding is he dropped out after 1 year. So in 1975. So he was basically there like 18 years before I was there. But yeah, so hey, that's my connection. Oh Lord. Yeah, so weird life. See, sometimes I'm convinced that nothing in my life was ever interesting and exciting, but since doing this YouTube thing, talking about shit has really brought back like a lot of hilarious things from my life that I completely forgot about, like the Ted Bundy chair thing, the fake gang fights we used to stage, the BB gun fight. I'm crap like hilarious shit that I would get into as a kid. Anyway, yeah, so that was Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was into he admitted to, I believe it was like 19 murders, but they suspect that it could have been upwards of 100 or so in Utah, Florida, Seattle, and a couple of other places. But yep, that's who Ted Bundy was. Ted Bundy went to law school, worked for politicians, and had a partner that helped raise his daughter, I guess, and had a partner and helped raise her daughter. She was the one who kept trying to turn him in. One of my law school professors, Professor Dyer, actually had I can't really remember the exact circumstances, but it was basically one of Ted Bundy's potential victims he got somehow involved with her in a moment. And she basically said, if Professor Dyer hadn't been in that place at that point in time, I would have gotten into one of Ted Bundy's vehicles. So it's kind of wild to have these kind of connections. But anywho, we've been doing this for exactly 3 hours now. There was a 20-minute Inside Edition interview with Ted Bundy that I wanted to get into, but I don't think we have the time for it tonight. But I am mildly surprised. Well, not mildly. I'm incredibly surprised that we lost a ton of subscribers, but we've come out with +8 subscribers at the end of today. Maiden Iron, yes, I am from Utah living in Korea. That is absolutely correct, and I'll be back in Utah 2 weeks from now. But yep, I'm a Utah native, and I'm now living in Korea. Again, I don't know. We got 342 people here. I've been doing this for 3 hours. There's a 17-minute interview with Ted Bundy from Inside Edition. Do we want to go through this? Do you want to sit here for another 30 minutes or so? What do you think? Should we wrap it up, or should we do this interview with Bundy, or just end this on kind of a wacky high note that we have? We've got a few do-its. We've got one no and 2 no's and lots of yeses so far. More yeses. We'll give a few more seconds for people to hit yes, no, YN, whatever. Specs4 says, you deserve more attention. You're interesting to listen to. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Doug Lovell. Why does that name ring a bell? Doug Lovell. That rings some bells here. Doug Lovell. Doug Lovell seeks to reverse second sentence in Joyce Yost murder. 1985. I was in Utah. I don't remember this. The name I remember, but I don't remember the incident. History of the case. Beginning the night of April 1885, when Lovell first saw Yost, followed her home from a club in Clearfield, and nothing good ever happens in Clearfield. Lovell had confronted Yost outside her South Ogden apartment. Literally nothing good ever happens in Ogden. Raped her, kidnapped her, and then raped again in her own home. Managed to convince Lovell to release her by promising not to report what she'd done. She's quite a cad. I don't remember this case. I remember his name, and that's all. I'll have to look into it and see if that would be that would qualify for the old famous cases. I am obviously not famous to my stupid head, but yeah. Hey, I'm new to this. I got to grift as long as possible here. I got to get my name there. Got to stick with it and get things out. Once I become super famous and self-sustaining, then I can cut back a bit. But I got to hit it hard now and build the following, build the followers, build the grift. So got to put in some extra time. It's 2:06 a.m. here. That's how dedicated I am. Maiden Iron, did you get my second super chat? Fuck if I know. Let me circle back here. Scrolling. Keep those wagons scrolling. Super chat. Comes on wind and weather, we'll keep our flocks together. Wishing my gal was by my side. Scrolling up. I'm not seeing any chats from anybody. Haven't got any super chats in the last 10 minutes. Scrolling back more. Sorry, I'm an idiot. If I missed it, I'm a fucktard. Okay. Looking for the last super chat. Oh, Maiden Iron. Okay, boom. No, I didn't get it. This was from damn near, it was 20 minutes ago. I deeply apologize. Maiden Iron, thank you. I'm an idiot. I'm a fuckwit. I actually enjoy these crime videos. Thanks, Jeff. I knew about Dahmer's crimes, but I didn't know he has played with their gone bodies for days. Yeah. Ugh. Oh, now I got to scroll up and see if I missed anybody else's. I'm having a panic attack here that I'm letting people down with my incompetence. Kit Kat. Okay, I think we got them all. There we go. All right. Well, if you want, I can do this another 30 minutes or so before I have to conk out for the night. My only concern is that I have completely run out of adult beverages. I've got a couple of drops of this delicious and ultra expensive Colonel E.H. Taylor bottled in bond straight Kentucky bourbon. I can survive another 30 minutes without booze. Oh, Robert, thank you muchly again, sir. You are too kind. Here's an interesting... Dmitry Kordonev is going on trial for strangling and chopping up his ex-girlfriend, stuffing her in a suit. Oh, the suitcase dude. Yeah. Yeah, the suitcase dude. That's messed up too. I'm kind of playing this game here with, what do I have 22,062 subscribers, and literally no one in my personal, social, and familial realm has any idea I'm doing this. And I'm just waiting to see how long it takes for someone that I know to discover me. So I'm not reaching out to any of my cool and interesting friends to do streams with me and things. There's only been one person that I was interested in for a while that saw me on a legal mindset stream. And she hit me up, and it was kind of fun to talk for a few minutes about things that never occurred. But once like the word gets out amongst friends that I'm doing this weird shit, I have some cool friends I want to bring in to, especially like some of my Russian friends, to talk about some of the wild Russian serial killers and people like that. So yeah. Oh, Legal Mindset is a dear friend. He's the one that got me started in this. We were having drinks and getting really drunk in Seoul together one night, and he insisted that I do this YouTube shit, and I thought he was insane. I thought he was crazy, and he kept saying, "No, man, people would love to hear what you have to say. They think it was great. You know, it'd be fun. We'd love to do this." And I said no. And then over another few drinks on a separate occasion, he hit me up again and somehow managed to convince me to start this up. So yeah, Legal Mindset is literally the reason I'm here now. He's a great dude. He's a bro. He's awesome, and he's the reason I'm here. We are way cool. He was on my stream last night. I was on his stream last night. We hang. And we'll be getting together as soon as possible after I get back from my vacation. So, yep. All right. Apparently the verdict is we should watch 17 minutes of this interview with Japanese. Fuck, I'm reading with Japanese. Fuck me. It's because of this. I was going to say Jeffrey Dahmer or the interview with Jeffrey Dahmer, but I read this at the same time, so I said interview with Japanese. Turtle said, "I have Japanese whiskey I never drink, lost in translation." Japanese whiskey is amazing, and the actual Lost in Translation whiskey Hibiki is right. Well, no, there was a Suntory. I'm sorry, but yeah, this is my Japanese shelf here. It's almost empty. There's only a few left. So, all right. Hail law nerd clips. I don't think I've made a law nerd clip yet. I may have made one or two, but I don't think I've made a law nerd clip yet. Damn it. How did these fucking bots get in here? I'm literally set up for a 5-minute wait period. But hey, my mods are so on top of that. They blasted it before anything happened. So fuck you, bots. I literally have it on a 5-minute membership requirement before you can comment. So the bots are timed now, you bastards. All righty. So this is Jeffrey Dahmer Inside Edition. Again, I'm testing waters for copyright claims because I want to use a court TV feed for some of the OJ Simpson stuff I want to do. So my next one of my next projects will be doing a court TV stream to see if their stuff gets me a copyright claim. So there we go. Let's go with JD. 17 minutes. We'll try to wrap it up in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then I must get some sleep. In the meantime, what are we at for likes? We're almost at 579. We're at 579 likes. My ridiculous goal for the evening was 600 likes for the stream. We're almost there. There's 312 of you here. If you haven't liked or subscribed, please do me a deep favor. I would be honored if you would just reach down and swipe that, smash that, blast that, click on that like button, and let's bring us up. And if you haven't already subscribed, if you're here and you've been listening to me for more than a few minutes, you are more than worthy of subscribing to my channel. You will fit in here very nicely if you've been able to put up with the shit we've talked about for the last 3 hours. This is way beyond what we normally talk about. So if you can handle this, you can handle anything that this channel throws at you. So please, if you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button, slap the bell end for a notification, and let's go. Let me bring up the JD thing. And this may not exist very long after a copyright claim comes in. Where are we? Inside the Mind of Jeffrey Dahmer. That's it.
I desensitized myself to it. I don't know. I went to great lengths.
He is pure evil, but you'd never know it by looking at him. But when you hear him, that's another story. His killing field was Milwaukee, and he got
Thank
away
you,
with murder
Durao.
for
On
more than a
appreciate
decade.
it. Deeply,
But how did
deeply
any of this
appreciate it.
happen? For the first time ever, Nancy Glass is here inside the world of Jeffrey Dahmer.
Bill, when I sat down opposite Jeffrey Dahmer for this interview, I wondered what he would tell me, how hard it would be to get him to discuss his horrific crimes. What I found was that he was very forthcoming. He volunteered details that may be difficult to hear. I began by asking what he wanted from the men he picked up.
I had these obsessive desires and thoughts wanting to control them, to
Yes, that is a young Bill O'Reilly.
Put it, possess them permanently.
And that's why you killed
That's
him.
a young Bill O'Reilly.
Right. Not because I was angry with them, not because I hated them, but because I wanted to keep them with me. And as my obsession grew, I was saving body parts such as
she was 93
skulls
hot. She was early 90s
and,
hot.
skeletons.
Jeffrey Dahmer is recalling his monstrous past.
Almost 2 years ago, in this little apartment in Milwaukee, police discovered the grisly remnants of one of the most horrible crime sprees in American history. Jeffrey Dahmer, an unassuming chocolate factory worker, would eventually confess that he had seduced, murdered, and dismembered 17 young men. He even ate some of his victims' body parts. He instantly became the center of worldwide media attention, a
Yes.
serial killer unmasked. There were protests and
That's-
press conferences in Milwaukee.
That's
some of
how
his
old this
victims'
is.
body parts.
How old is this case? It's this old. This case is this old. This case is manual typewriter old. That's how old this case is. This was 30 years ago. Lucky Behemoth. That's a cool nickname. And cute corgi. $5. Not serial killer related. But did you have to study the USS Greenville collision with the Japanese fishing boat Maru? No, but if you drop me a line at thelegalvices@gmail.com or Twitter at thelegalvices and remind me of this case, I will definitely look into it. Thank you for the donation, by the way. So yeah, you shoot me an email, thelegalvices@gmail.com or Twitter at thelegalvices. I will look into it and add that to my list of things that viewers have recommended. So yeah, that's how old this case is. It is manual typewriter old, 1993. Dude here he's like one of the last holdouts. I mean, this might be an electric typewriter, but it looks very manual.
He instantly became the center of worldwide media attention, a serial killer unmasked. There were protests and press conferences in Milwaukee as people tried to understand how this could have happened in their midst. How did Jeffrey Dahmer get away with murder after murder for 13 years? How did a boy born into a hardworking middle-class family turn into the worst kind of monster imaginable? In this exclusive interview, we put those questions to Jeffrey Dahmer himself. We met with him at the maximum security prison where he is serving his sentence of 999 years. For the first time, he talks about his crimes and gives us a chilling look inside the mind of a serial killer.
It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. When you depersonalize another person and view them as just an object for pleasure instead of a living, breathing human being, it seems to make it easier to do things you shouldn't do.
The reason why Jeffrey Dahmer was able to get away with his crimes was because of just what you are seeing here. Jeffrey Dahmer is intelligent and articulate. That is what makes him so frightening. But if you listen carefully to his words throughout this interview, you realize it is a thin disguise. You do sound, though, like the kind of person who could have said to himself, "This is wrong. I must stop."
I always knew that it was wrong, but after the first killing was not planned. I was coming back from the shopping mall back in '78. I had fantasies about picking up a hitchhiker and taking him back to the house and having complete control and dominance over him.
The hitchhiker's name was Stephen Hicks. He was just 18. Jeffrey Dahmer took him to his parents' house. There he strangled him with a barbell. He dismembered the body and hid it in a drain pipe. It was Jeffrey Dahmer who gave those details to the police in his confession.
No one had a clue as to what was happening for over a decade.
During that time, Jeffrey Dahmer joined the army and was sent to Germany. He was eventually discharged for a drinking problem and returned to Ohio. 9 years after Stephen Hicks' murder, the killing began again. What happened to you in the 9 years in between?
Wow, Law Nerd Clips is here. A legend. A legend is in our presence. Holy crap. Welcome. Ah, wow. Yeah, see that's one of my bucket list items to be clipped on Law Nerd Clips. What do we got here? Thank you for the donation, by the way. Danielle means me. I will clip you and share the I will clip you and share the live stream for people to subscribe to you. Should business clips always get demonetized for me too? Yeah. Oh, wow. Hey, this is one of the first greats. One of the first internet legends to drop by my stream unannounced. Glad to have you here. I appreciate it. All right, back to Dahmer.
That you were able to stop, that you were able to control yourself.
Just wasn't an opportunity to fully express what I wanted to do. There was just not the physical opportunity to do it then. And I started, when I moved to Milwaukee in '81, I started reading pornography, going to the bookstores. Eventually that led to frequenting the gay bars. And then one time I brought this young man back to the hotel room, the Ambassador Hotel. Was just planning on drugging him and spending the night with him. Had no intention of hurting him. When I woke up in the morning, he had a broken rib here, was heavily bruised. Apparently I had beaten him to death with my fists.
And you have no memory
I
of it?
have no memory of it. But that's what started the whole spree all over again.
Dahmer says he snuck the corpse of his victim, Stephen Toomey, out of his hotel room in a suitcase. Then he took it to his grandmother's house, where he cut up the body and put it in plastic garbage bags. When you killed these men, afterwards, were you repulsed? Were you upset?
No, at the time, it was almost addictive. It was almost a surge of energy. I wouldn't have to worry about any of their needs or anything. I just had complete control of the situation.
But Jeffrey Dahmer was out of control. The urge to kill had overpowered him. As police later learned, he wasn't satisfied with his victim's death. He wanted more. Why did you photograph them?
It was my way of remembering their appearance, their physical beauty. I also wanted to keep if I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
I mean, this is so insightful. This is so wild to me that someone is being this open and presumably honest. I mean, if you go back and like watch interviews with Charles Manson, especially like some of the old Geraldo Rivera interviews with Charles Manson, you can just see Charles Manson is just fucking with the interviewers, just fucking with them, saying shit that they want to hear, saying shit to make him out to be the monster that people think he. I mean, of course, he was a fucking monster, but you know, playing to the stereotypes and the fears about Charles Manson, like that. But this appears to be an honest appraisal of himself and an honest telling of his story. And it's fascinating that he's being this open.
And I even went so far as planning on setting up an altar with the 10 different skulls and skeletons.
And what was the purpose of the altar going to be?
As a sort of memorial, a point where I could, I don't know, it's so bizarre and strange, it's hard to describe. A place where I could collect my thoughts and feed my obsession.
When the bodies were still in your apartment, there was no time when you would see them and say, this is grotesque. What have I done?
There were times, but the compulsive obsession with doing what I was doing overpowered any feelings of revulsion.
This man with a quiet, almost shy demeanor became a master manipulator who was able to lure strangers he met at gay bars to his apartment. He was even able to con the police into returning a 14-year-old boy to him after neighbors called 911 upset that the child was in the street naked and bleeding. Dahmer convinced the police that he and the boy were simply having a lover's quarrel.
It's a intoxicated boyfriend of another boyfriend.
How old was this child?
It wasn't a child, it was an adult.
After the police left,
They
Jeffrey
didn't check.
Dahmer murdered that boy, Conorak Synthesum phone. This man says he had a near-fatal encounter with Jeffrey Dahmer.
He wanted to take some picture of my back. He hit me with a rubber hammer on my neck.
He was lucky to escape because by then the killing had become almost routine. Before you went out to pick up the man,
Yeah, go back and watch the stream. Where
I go to the nightclubs, drink.
Yeah.
Watch the striptease shows. And if I didn't meet anyone at the bars, I'd go to the bath clubs and meet someone there, offer them money, and we'd go back to the apartment, have a few drinks. I'd have the sleeping pill mixture already prepared. Person would drink it, fall asleep, and that's when they would be strangled.
watching the movie Exorcist 3 was also part of his ritual. It put him in the mood for murder.
Yikes.
I felt so hopelessly evil and perverted that I actually derived a sort of pleasure from watching that tape.
Did you like feeling evil?
No, I didn't. But I had tried to overcome the thoughts, and it worked for a while, but eventually I gave in.
While Jeffrey Dahmer may say things today that make it seem like he understands what went on in his mind, he does not. All he can do is tell you what happened, but he cannot stop whatever it is that drove him to kill in the first place. Do you still feel those same urges? Do you still feel that compulsion, that obsession?
I wish I could say that it just left completely, but no, there are times when I still do have the old compulsions.
Jeffrey Dahmer says as time went on, his mind became more and more warped, and yet he was clever enough to continue to elude police and lure young men to his apartment. We should warn you, the details are very graphic.
I started having these obsessive thoughts when I was about 15 and 16, and they got worse and worse.
What were your fantasies about?
They were sexual fantasies of control, power, complete dominance. They became reality.
Was there pleasure in that fantasy?
There was excitement, fear, pleasure, all mixed together.
Jeffrey Dahmer fulfilled his fantasies by murdering and dismembering 17 young men. In time, his desires became more extreme, his deeds more grotesque. Listen to him talk about the most unnatural things in the most matter-of-fact of ways. That's when you realize that none of it has touched him.
I was...
And I mean, that's the psychoticness, the sociopathy of this is, as some of you have been mentioning in the chat. Just, I mean, I have no reason to explain why, but I believe he's being honest here, because if you look at some of the great sociopaths of history, if you can use the word great, they feel no emotion about these things. There is no emotion involved. They just do it. And so I personally believe he's being honest and open here because it doesn't bother him. Because he has no emotions.
Branching out, that's when the cannibalism started. Eating of the heart and the arm muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me. At first, it was just curiosity, and then it became compulsive. Then I tried to keep the person alive by inducing a zombie-like state. By injecting first dilute acid solution into their brain or hot water. And it never did completely work.
Could someone like you be stopped? Could you be helped?
No, I was dead set on going with this compulsion. It was the only thing that gave me any satisfaction.
He became so warped by his evil impulses that he even took a victim's head with him to work at the Ambrosia chocolate factory.
I kept the mummified head and skull of one of the victims in a carrying case in my locker at work.
Were you almost flaunting it?
Yeah.
Very unbothered. Where do we go? Yeah. Tasty STD says very unbothered. That is a very good way of describing this. Very unbothered by it. But I mean that's why, I mean, if he was lying, I think he would tend to be more, getting into the details, kind of doing the vocal inflections, making it sound really spooky and scary and extra evil. But I think just this detached recitation of facts by someone who has zero ability to feel emotions, I think lends it some degree of veracity, some degree of truthfulness. I don't know. We all have to come to our own conclusions on what he was doing here. But I tend to think he was being open.
That's how strong the compulsion was. That's how bizarre the desire was. I wanted to keep something of the person with me.
Jeffrey Dahmer exhibited some disturbing behavior early on. He began drinking heavily as a teenager, dropped out of college, was arrested for indecent exposure, disorderly conduct, and fondling a 13-year-old boy. Tragically, one of his murder victims would be that boy's brother. Do you know what started it? Was there any kind of incident that you can remember?
To this day, I don't know what started it. And the person to blame is sitting right across from you. That's the only person. Not parents, not society, not pornography. I mean, those are just excuses.
His macabre 13-year crime spree finally ended when this man, Tracy Edwards, brought the police to the infamous apartment. Like the others, he had gone there with the promise of money.
He was listening to my heart because at a point he told me he was going to eat my heart at that point. I hit him and I ran.
What was the turning point for you that made you suddenly realize that you had done something terribly wrong, something you should be sorry for?
It was the night of the arrest. I have no memory of what happened during this.
See, and again, that is kind of indicative of his nature and what we've seen to this point. He didn't really feel like he fucked up or did anything wrong until he got caught. That's like the, oh shit, I've been caught doing something. It's the guilt for getting caught, not for what he did.
6 hours before the last victim ran out of the apartment, I heard a knock on the door, and the police were there with the last victim. They asked me where the key was to the handcuffs. My mind was in a haze. I sort of pointed to the bedroom, and that's where they found the pictures. And they yelled, "Cuff him." And I was handcuffed. And it was just the realization that there was no point in trying to hide my actions anymore. The best route was to help the police identify all the victims and just make a complete confession.
When it was revealed that most of the victims were Black or homosexual, people
His
in
victims
Milwaukee were incensed. Many felt that was why.
Okay, this is something that hasn't been mentioned in either of the clips we've shown. He would pose his nude victims post-mortem after death. He would pose their bodies in positions and photograph them, take Polaroids. So yeah, that was the pictures they were talking about. He would pose the corpses naked and take photographs.
Why he went after them and why the police didn't seem to care when their families reported them missing. 10 of your 17 victims were black. Were they racially motivated?
It was
crimes?
not racially motivated. It was not sexual preference. It was just to find an obsession with the best looking young man I could find.
While you just heard him say that his sexual preference had nothing to do with the killings, he has not come to terms with his homosexuality.
Never understood it. There was no use trying to fight it because I couldn't rid myself of it. It was too powerful and persistent.
Do you dislike it?
Yes, it's caused a lot of problems for me. A lot of conflicts and unanswered questions.
The conflicts remain with him, and so do his compulsions. But in prison, he finally cannot act on his savage desires. If you were out on the street now, would you still be committing the crimes?
Probably. If this hadn't happened, there's no doubt I probably would be. I can't think of anything that would have stopped me.
All right. Let's see if that gets a copyright claim on it. Yeah. All right. Now we can't go longer. This has been 3.5 hours. It's been an hour and a half longer than I planned. But we did the short Schabusiness arraignment. We're not going to revisit that again until the next hearing, which will be a status hearing in September. And that's basically the judge is just going to ask, are we still ready to go to trial on October 24th? The next major event would be the October 19th pretrial hearing, the preliminary hearing, pretrial hearing. That may not be available. I don't know, but we'll see. But the actual trial starts October 24th. So there won't be much Schabusiness talk until October 24th. John Long, last name, you're out of here. See ya. Been great having you. Come back tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be, I swear to God, unless there's some huge, major, catastrophic, earth-changing event, tomorrow we'll be getting back into the last 3 witnesses that are three persons that are being interrogated as part of the Alec Baldwin shooting incident on the set of the movie Rust. We'll be doing that tomorrow. And tomorrow's Thursday. Here's a Thursday, Friday, and probably Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. And then I'm out of here next weekend for 2 weeks. During that time, I don't know if I'll be able to live stream while I'm in the States because I don't have a laptop. I've just got the desktop on my phone. May be able to break away at some points and do a couple quick things, but I'm recording a few things to upload while I'm gone to keep y'all entertained. And we'll do some random community post pictures on YouTube for things that I'm doing. Dang. Let's see. How did we get the 600 likes here? Oh, we got 615 likes. We reached my ridiculous goal. We're up plus 10 after the grand exodus and grand influx of outgoing and incoming subscriptions. We ended the day at plus 10. So God bless all of you that have subscribed to being here. Again, I will be in the States from the 16th to the 30th of July. I'll be in Utah most of the time. I will most likely be in Las Vegas 20th, 21st, and some of the 22nd of July. Again, I'll post some things and make some announcements where I'll be in case anyone wants to pop in and say hi from the Vegas area. The main places where I hang out in Vegas are the Monte Cristo Cigar Lounge in Caesar's Palace. I want to go to the new 8 Cigar Lounge in the brand new big fucking casino and resort hotel they've got there. Those are kind of the main areas where I hang out. But I'll be all over the place. And Double Helix Bar is another place I hang out in Vegas. Amazing whiskey bar. Execution, I have you start here. Hang on. We'll get to your Jefferson Airplane. By the way, Jefferson Airplane is one of my favorite old groups. White Rabbit is probably one of my top 3 all-time favorite songs. So nice shout out there. Check out the British Dahmer, Dennis Nilsson, or the British Gacy, Fred West. You won't regret it. Again, I'll try to keep that in mind, but please do email me or tweet me with those names, and I will definitely give them a peek. I can't get to the trailer park resort. I suggested that to my sister, and she was looking at me like I was from a fucking other planet, because it'll be me, her, my son, and a bunch of her kids. She's like, no way. We're staying in a nice resort in Vegas. We're not going out into a bunch of teepees and trailers out in the middle of the Nevada/California desert. So that got nixed. I'm at the mercy of drivers. Stetch Dresker, thank you so much for the last minute donation coming in at the tail end of our stream. Did you get a chuckle from Acrothorn's KF thread? Would love to spread the word to help those being victimized by him currently. Acer Thorn's KF thread. On Twitter? I'm just trying to figure out what that whole thread is all about. I mean, when you wake up to a bajillion message thread, it's I don't really get what's going on. Okay, so it wasn't the the Kiwi Farms thread. Okay. There's one giant thread that's wildly weird on Twitter that I got copied and pasted to about 300 messages in. So I that's what I thought you might have been. No, I haven't looked at this yet. Must do so. Making mental note. All righty. Well, it is coming up on 3 a.m. here. I've got a 6:45 alarm going to be going off. So, but I remember it now. I was saying I needed a new Kiwi farm because DSP got old about a year and a half ago, and Boogie's just gone off the rails. Those are the only 2 lol cows that I really kept tabs on. So yeah, I remember that now. I'm an idiot. See, I forget these things. So, all righty. Thank you to all the viewers that stuck around for this bizarro night. Again, we're not going to be talking about this shit at least until late September, most likely late October. It just happens, and we managed to kill 2 birds with 1 stone by wrapping Schabusiness and Dahmer into one night. So there we go. Thanks, Execution. You sent the email. Great. Thank you very much. And with that, thank you so much for the 626 likes we've got so far. When we wrap this up, the 258 of you that are currently watching, if you haven't yet subscribed, please do so on your way out. And while you're doing that, I would deeply appreciate if you hit the like button and maybe signed up for notifications as we go along. You all enjoy your meals after going through all of that. Me, I have to go to sleep with all of this on my mind. So there you have it. There was definitely some illegal vices talked about tonight. But until we get together tomorrow night, same bat time-ish, same bat channel, back with the Baldwin mess. Until then, please take care of yourself. Enjoy your morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you may be. And do not forget to enjoy your legal vices. I'm out. Bye now.